Chapter 441 Fight Again. Knowing that reinforcements were coming, Jiraiya and the others were relieved. If that's the case, then everything will be done according to the commander's order. This time, no one objected anymore, at least on the surface. After discussing the matter, Dong Shenyao told everyone to leave, and in the end only Tsunade remained in the tent. "Yao, why are you so strong today? It's different from your usual time," Tsunade asked. Hearing Tsunade's words, Dong Shenyao laughed in his heart, because this is the original character of Dong Shenyao. He has been strong before, but Tsunade has not seen it. After all, Tsunade is his woman, so he is usually with Tsunade. At times, Dong Shenyao would also be more accommodating to her. "Tsunade is not because I am strong, but because I have the confidence. In the current ninja world, there are not many people who can stand up to me, and the current case cage is barely one, so even if case cage comes to me, I am not afraid," Dong Shenyao said proudly. Seeing Ta Shenyao's domineering expression, Tsunade's eyes were full of obsession. "This is my Tsunade's man. He's really domineering, but I like it." Tsunade's eyes were blurred, and he looked like fucking. Seeing this, Dong Shenyao immediately stepped forward and hugged her, then lowered his head and kissed her. Although Tsunade appeared to be asking for anything, but when he thought that this was in the military camp and that a battle was about to take place, Ta Shenya held back in the end. "I'll let you go this time, next time I'll definitely eat you, little goblin," said Dong Shenyao and rubbed him hard in front of Tsunadexiong. "Good brother is waiting for you," Tsunade said with a wink. Seeing Tsunade like this, Dong Shenyao's heart lit up. He got up and walked out of the tent. He was afraid that he would really be unable to bear it any longer. "Humph, fight with me," Tsunade smiled smugly when he saw Ta Shenyao leave. After Sunagakur entered the land of rain, he finally met Dong Shenyao and the others. Sunagakur set up camp 10 kilometers away from the village where Dong Shenyao and the others were located, and the place they chose was the village that Sunagakur occupied before. It's just that the village was already abandoned at this time. At that time, Konoha and Sunagakur fought. Sunagakur was defeated, and almost all the people in this village died in the war, and their houses were destroyed. However, it was at least a village before that, and the foundation was still there, so it would be much more convenient to set up camp here. Hearing the news of Sunagakur's arrival, Dong Shenyao quickly brought the three of Jiraiya over. "Sunagakur has arrived, so you all go back and get ready, and we'll do it tonight." So fast, the three of them were startled. "Sunagakur just arrived today, and after all these days of traveling, I must be very tired, so it was a good time for our sneak attack at night." At that time, they were all asleep. "Once we attacked, we will definitely achieve great results," Dong Shenyao analysis wrote. Books such as Romance of the Three Kingdoms were not read for nothing. This kind of night attack was nothing to Dong Shenyao. Even the water attack technique used to defeat Iwagakure last time was also Dong Shenyao. Learned from various books. It is a pity that there are no such books in this world. For ninjas, they believe in their own strength, so the battles in the ninja village are basically head-to-head, or some simple ambush, such as fire attacks, water attacks, etc. There is no such thing at all. At this time, after the Tsunade three heard Dong Shenyao's explanation, they were all shocked by his plan. "Your lord is so smart to come up with such a plan," Jiraiya admired in her heart. And Orochimaru was thoughtful, and Ta Shenyao's plan gave him a lot of inspiration. "Orochimaru, the checkpoints outside the Sunagakur village camp will be handed over to you. When the operation starts at night, you must clear all the checkpoints. You cannot let them report to Sunagakur. Whether the sneak attack tonight is successful is entirely up to you. Don't worry, my lord, I will do my best to complete the task," Orochimaru said solemnly. "Jiraiya, I appointed you as the commando captain for tonight's attack. After the battle begins, you will lead your psychic beasts to clear the way ahead, and be sure to destroy the defense of the Sunagakur village camp very quickly." "Yes," Jiraiya responded. "Tsunade, the task of treatment is left to you. After the battle begins, you try your best to provide our people with the best medical treatment, so that they can maintain their combat effectiveness to the greatest extent possible. Ah, Tsunade pouted when he heard that he was actually doing this kind of job. Tsunade's job is very important. After all, our numbers are not as good as each other, so we can't easily kill people. Dong Shenyao said seriously. Yes, I got it. Tsunade also understood his importance, so although he couldn't fight the enemy head-on, Tsunade didn't continue to complain. Okay everyone, rest well, there will be a battle tonight, you must keep your spirits up. After explaining the task, Dong Shenyao sent all three away. The blink of an eye, the sun was still setting, and the people of Sunagakure village began to rest, while the Konoha village was the opposite. Although it was already night, Dong Shenyao did not rush to take action, but prepared to wait until the people of Sunagakure village were fast asleep before taking action. Even if the people of Sunagakure village woke up, they would all be sleepy for a short time. I am afraid that I will not be able to exert much fighting power. Soon it was midnight. At this time, everyone in Konoha village finally set off. Still out in full force, almost no one was left in the camp. Thousands of ninjas moved silently, and when they touched the leaves, they made noises, so Dong Shenyao deliberately slowed down. Originally, a 10-mile journey was not a big deal for a ninja, and it took 10 minutes at most, but this time Dong Shenyao and the others spent nearly an hour to get close to the camp in Sunagakure village. Although it takes a lot of time, the effect is also very good, and there is almost no sound between actions. When they approached the Iwagakure camp 3 miles away, the crowd stopped, because the ninjas of the Hyuga clan had detected that there was already a checkpoint of Sunagakure village ahead. No need for Dong Shenyao to issue an order, Orochimaru had already consciously led the shots. The battle has already begun, but there is no movement. The ninjas who shot this time are all masters, and almost all of them are one-shot kills. More than 10 minutes later, Orochimaru came to Dong Shenyao with a bloody aura all over his body. My lord, your subordinates have successfully completed their mission. Very well, let's go. Chapter 442 Tashinyao's means. Go. Following Dong Shinyao's order, the team began to advance again. At this time, Sunagakure's camp had already appeared in the sight of Dong Shenyao and the others. Looking from a distance, a light was emitting from the camp. After nearly a day of sorting out, the original ruins have been cleaned up and turned into the current camp. Even compared with before, Sunagakure's defense is more stable this time. Obviously, the attack launched by Dong Shenyao last time gave Sunagakure great warning. It didn't take long for Dong Shenyao and the others to stop again. At this time, they were only 100 or more away from Sunagakure's camp, and they would be discovered if they went further. Jiraiya, it's up to you this time. Dong Shenyao turned to face Jiraiya behind him. Don't worry, it's up to me. Just now Orochimaru made Jiraiya a little jealous. Now it's finally his turn, and Jiraiya is gearing up. Go. With a wave of his hand, Jiraiya led some of his subordinates to the Sunagakure camp and sneaked past. Although Sunagakure was patrolling near the camp, but at this time these patrolling people were also a little tired, and Jiraiya and the others were not weak, so the last group successfully sneaked to the gate of the camp. Immediately more than a dozen people hand seal at the same time. Ninja, psychic art. Bang, 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 puffs of smoke rose, and it didn't take long for the giants to come out of the smoke. These people brought by Jiraiya all have psychic beasts, and their psychic beasts are all huge. The purpose of arranging their shots is to destroy the camp defense of Sunagakure village at once, so that Dong Shenyao they can enter the camp unimpeded. Not good. Enemy attack. Ah! Just as the giant psychic beasts appeared, Sunagakure's guard finally reacted and shouted, but then many people were killed by the nearby psychic beasts. Boom! Although Sunagakure's defense was very strong, it couldn't stop the attacks of so many giant psychic beasts. It didn't take long for the gate to be destroyed, and the stone walls built around it all collapsed. Go! Seeing that the defense had been destroyed, after Dong Shenyao gave the order, he immediately rushed towards the camp. At this time, most of the Sunagaker in the camp were sleeping, even the Sunagaker commander. He had no idea that Konoha would attack this evening, which had never happened before. Although Dongshenyao had attacked Iwagakure at night before, but at that time Dongshenyao mainly used the power of nature. At this time, there was no river around Sunagaker's camp, so they did not think that Konoha would attack. Sunagaker was completely unprepared, so even though Konoha village had launched an attack, many people were still asleep and did not wake up. After all, they had been on the road a few days ago and had not slept well. Now, of course, there is a chance. Get a good rest. Led by a group of psychic beasts, a large number of Konoha ninjas soon entered the Sunagaker camp, and the first to come was Dongshenyao. Meteorites fall. House of Flying Daggers. Rock Rain. As soon as he came in, Dongshenyao released 3 skills at the tent in the distance. In an instant, hundreds of Sunagaker died in Dongshenyao's hands, and then a huge meteor fell from the sky and fell directly into the center of the camp. Boom! The huge explosion sounded, and a wave of air was set off. Many ninjas were still in their sleep, so they went directly to see Hades. Ah, damn Konoha! Suddenly, a loud shout came from the camp. The voice was so loud that even the sound of battle could not cover it up. It was obviously a master who shouted. At this point, the Sunagakers finally woke up, but many people were still in a state of daze, and they didn't understand what happened. Just when they were in a daze, a Konoha ninja entered the tent and took the opportunity to take these Sunagaker beheaded. Sunagaker died in a short period of time. Nearly 5 minutes after the battle started, Sunagaker fully reacted and began to resist the attack of the Konoha ninja, which restrained the attack of the Konoha ninja. Seeing this, Dongshenyao knew that the time had come. Blast! Dongshenyao shouted loudly, and the next moment, he heard an explosion. Boom! 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 A short period of time, there were nearly 10 explosions in the camp. Although the locations of the explosions were a bit remote, they also had a lot of impact on Sunagaker. Sunagaker, who had managed to organize, become confused again. They thought that other places were also attacked by Konoha ninjas. At the same time, Sunagaker's food and grass happened to be very close to an explosion site, so it was directly ignited. If the fire was put out in time, the food and grass could still be kept, but now that the war is going on, Sunagaker still has time to manage the food and grass. At the same time, some Sunagaker were unlucky and were killed directly. What's going on? Not only Sunagaker was stunned, but many Konoha ninjas were also stunned after seeing the sudden explosion. Yo, what's going on? Tsunade asked in confusion. Hey, this is what I arranged before. After we defeated Sunagaker, I deliberately buried a lot of detonating talismans here. Dongshenyao laughed wickedly. At that time, Dongshenyao knew that Sunagaker would not let it go, and when they came back, they would probably still choose this camp as a camp, so Dongshenyao quietly buried a lot of detonating charms here. Just to avoid being discovered by Sunagaker, the places Dongshenyao chose to bury the detonating talisman were relatively remote. Although these detonators didn't kill much Sunagaker, they were enough to confuse Sunagaker. Giant magnet style, sand and iron rain. Whoosh whoosh. Countless 4.6 iron sands were shot out like sharp arrows, and immediately many Konoha ninjas were injured, and some even died on the spot. Giant magnet style, it's Cage. Dongshenyao was a little surprised. He didn't expect Cage to actually come. But soon, a smile appeared on Dongshenyao's face. Ha ha ha, Cage is here, then use him to test my strength. Thinking of this, Dongshenyao flew straight up. Cage, dare to fight me. Dongshenyao's voice instantly spread throughout the battlefield. Ignorance child, watch me destroy you. Giant magnet style, sand and iron not attack. Suddenly a large amount of iron sand gathered in the sky into a spear and shot at Dongshenyao. Shinra Tensai, almighty push, sign. The repulsive force was released, and the iron spear was instantly shattered. Chapter 443 Battle Cage. Hey, the kid has some tricks. Seeing that his attack was easily blocked, Cage was a little surprised, and at the same time he really paid attention to Dong Shenyao. Cage, do you only dare to attack? You have the ability to fight me head-on. Dong Shenyao provocatively said. Among the crowd, with the help of moonlight and starlight, Cage frowned as he looked at the young man flying in the sky. In that weird costume, it seems that he is Dong Shenyao, and he can easily seriously injure Chio. It seems that this person is not simple. After recognizing Dong Shenyao, Cage's expression became solemn. Boy, fight. After replying, Cage did not show weakness. Jident magnet style, sand iron sky wing. The iron sand gathered behind Cage, and finally turned into a pair of wings, and then the wings flapped, and Cage flew slowly. It is not the first time that Dong Shenyao has seen Cage, the third generation of eyes. Not to mention the representative Jident magnet style, Dong Shenyao has already recognized him just by looking at him. Cage, you finally came out. I thought you would always be a tortoise. Dongshan 15 Yao said with contempt. HMPH, sharp-mouthed boy, you're not just trying to use your words. I don't know how you'll be able to take on me in the end. Cage countered. You'll find out after a while if you use your tongue, but I don't know if you inherited some of the strength of the second generation Cage. Hearing Dong Shenyao talking about the previous generation Cage, the third generation Cage couldn't help being stunned. At this time, he also thought of a rumor. It is said that the second generation Cage was killed by Dong Shenyao himself. Boy, today I will kill you to avenge the second generation. Jident magnet style, sand tai shiu. A large amount of iron sand surrounded the three generations of Cage, and then these iron sand flew towards Dong Shenyao like sharp arrows. Rock rain. Dong Shenyao was not to be outdone. A large number of stones condensed around him, and then turned into soil thorns and shot them out. Bang, bang, bang. The earth thorn and the iron sand collided together, and explosions sounded one after another, and the smoke spread between the two. Seeing that his attack didn't work, Cage shot again. Hand seal with both hands in front of you. Jident magnet style, sand and iron strike. The iron sand gathered into a huge circular Jinchuriki column body in the sky, and the next moment, this huge circular Jinchuriki column body collided with Dong Shenyao. The king of the earth. Boom. Countless earth elements gathered around Dong Shenyao, and soon he had transformed into a huge rock giant hundreds of meters high, followed by a layer of golden armor covering the stone giant. Bang! The golden samurai sword slashed on the circular Jinchuriki column formed by sand iron, and the solid circular Jinchuriki column was suddenly divided into two sections. Then the king of the earth stretched out his left hand, and then a spear appeared in his hand. This spear was condensed by Dong Shenyao using Jinten particle style. Jinten particle style boundary gun. The king of the earth swung his spear and directly bombarded the two-section circle Jinchuriki column, and then the circle Jinchuriki column disappeared quickly under Cage's gaze. What's going on? Cage was stunned. He didn't see what kind of ninjutsu Dong Shenyao used, and he actually lost the round Jinchuriki column body formed by the iron sand. At this time, as strong as Cage also frowned. Just before Cage thought about it, Ta Shinyao's attack had arrived. A wave of the right hand of the Earth King, the samurai sword immediately slashed towards Cage. Wings flapped, and Cage quickly avoided the attack of the katana sword, but at this time, the spear in the left hand of the Earth King also attacked. Although Cage had tried his best to dodge, one of his wings was pierced by a spear, and a large hole appeared in the wing, which made Cage's body fall directly downward. Cage's response was quick, and before he landed, his wings had recovered, and Cage flew again. But facing Cage is a great sword. When the huge samurai sword slashed at the wings behind Cage. Although this sword did not break the wings, the huge force directly slashed Cage down. Boom! Cage fell directly to the ground, sending up a cloud of smoke. Dong Shenyao didn't stop. he raised his foot and stepped on the place where Kage fell. Not good. Seeing this scene, many Sunagaku were dumbfounded. They didn't think that even Kage was not the opponent of Dong Shenyao. Seeing that the huge soul of the king of the earth was about to be stepped on, a figure suddenly flew out. When a samurai sword slashed on the sole of his foot, blocking Dong Shenyao's blow. Dong Shenyao was a little surprised. He didn't expect that there were still masters among Sunagaku. At this time, Kage also flew from the ground again. Seeing this, Sunagaku, who blocked Dong Shenyao's attack, left. Boom! The soles of his feet stepped on the ground, and the ground swayed suddenly, like an earthquake, and waves of air spread around, and many Sunagaku were affected and fell directly to the ground. Looking down, Dong Shenyao's eyes fell on a middle-aged man, who was the one who blocked his attack just now. 2 Kage-level masters. It seems that Sunagaku really made a big effort this time, but it's better this way. Battle. The eastern god Yaoyang roared and swung his spear at Kage. The battle begins again. The 2 major Kage-level masters in Sunagaku were all entangled by Ta Shenyao, which greatly reduced the pressure on Konoha ninjas. Although there were still quasi-shadows in Sunagaku, these people naturally had their resistance. Although the number of Konoha ninjas is small, because of the 353 sneak attack, Sunagaku was directly beaten, making Sunagaku at a disadvantage. The 3 of Dong Shenyao quickly left the camp. Their battle was too loud. If they stayed, the camp would soon be destroyed, and ordinary ninjas would suffer countless casualties. After leaving the camp, the 3 completely let go of their hands and feet. Whoosh! The king of the earth waved his hand, and immediately the spear was thrown out and shot straight at Kage. Kage quickly dodged, but the spear suddenly burst into a dazzling white light. Boom! A powerful aura emanated, and when the light dissipated, Kage found that a wing behind him had disappeared, and then Kage fell to the ground. Dong Shenyao chased after the victory, but at this time, another Kage-level master of Sunagaku shot. Kaden Fire Style, Dragon Fire Bullet. Boom! The huge flame sprayed on the king of the earth. Although this level of attack could not hurt the king of the earth, the impact attached to it made the king of the earth take a step back. The country of Yellow Izumi. Dong Shenyao shouted in his heart, and the next moment, the ground suddenly turned into a swamp, and then one after another, tall rock giants climbed out of the swamp. These rock giants are 2 meters tall and burly, and dozens of them have appeared before long. Chapter 444 Undead Warrior. Looking at the dozens of rock giants crawling out of the swamp, Kage looked puzzled. Is he going to win by numbers? Just when the 2 of Kage were puzzled, these rock giants had already shot. Kage was already flying again at this time, so the rock giant couldn't hit him, so the dozens of rock giants surrounded another Kage-level master. A rock giant waved a huge fist and punched it directly. The Kage-level master didn't want to be outdone, and he didn't dodge, and he punched out the same way. Bang! After the 2 punched each other, Sunagaku was different, but the huge rock giant took 2 steps back. Although the rock giant was repelled, Sunagaku's expression was a bit ugly. He had just punched with all his strength, but he only repulsed the rock giant, which showed how strong the rock giant's defense was. Kaden Fire Style, Dragon Fire Bullet. Woo! Iwagakure used ninjutsu again, and a large burst of flames spewed out, instantly covering the space of hundreds of meters. Boom! The explosion sounded, and under the burning and bombardment of the flames, many rock giants burst open, turning into rubble and scattered on the ground. Is it resolved? Seeing the rock giant that had shrunk by nearly half all at once, Sunagaku smiled disdainfully, but the next moment, his smile froze on his face. I saw that the rocks that were broken and turned by the rock giant actually wriggled, and then gathered together, and it didn't take long for them to re-aggregate into a rock giant. Don't die. Sunagaku's eyes widened. After sensing the movement below, Dong Shenyao smiled proudly. These rock giants are his proud work. Although this skill can only be regarded as a half-finished product, its power should not be underestimated. These rock giants are made by him using rocks and the power of life. Each of them is extremely powerful, and he also uses some simple soil skills. The most important thing is that because of the power of life, as long as these rock giants have the power of life standing on the earth, then they are immortal. There is no need to consume Dongshenyao's chakra or internal strength. As long as they can absorb the power of life, they will not die. Even if they are bombed to slag, they will recover, but the recovery time will be longer. Tashinyao called these rock giants undead warriors from hell, so this skill was named the country of Huang Izumi by him. It's a little tricky. After smashing a rock giant again and finding that they could really recover, Sunagakure felt a little helpless. Dongshenyao did not continue to take care of Sunagakure. There were undead warriors haunting him. Dongshenyao could concentrate on fighting Kazekage. Tashinyao's eyes fell on Kazekage. He found that he was in hand seal. Jitten magnet style iron sand world method. The ninjutsu was activated, and countless iron sands condensed together and turned into iron jinchuriki columns connected together one by one. These iron jinchuriki columns spread around like a spider web, and soon they were close to the king of the earth. The face of Kazecage's attack, Dongshenyao didn't dare to be careless. No matter what, Kazekage is a cage level master, and at least he is at the peak of cage level. If you are not careful, Dongshenyao will sail in the gutter. Break it for me. Dongshenyao shouted loudly, and controlled the king of the earth to wield his samurai sword and slashed towards the iron jinchuriki column that was constantly spreading. Boom! A huge roar sounded, and a large amount of iron jinchuriki column was chopped to pieces with one knife, but this was only a temporary solution, and the spread of iron jinchuriki column still did not stop. If that's the case, then another shot. Said, Jinten particle style fired again, a spear condensed in the hands of the Earth King. Jinten particle style boundary gun. Go! The Earth King waved his hand, and the spear transformed by Jinten particle style flew out. Bang! The spear shot directly into the middle of the countless iron jinchuriki column, and the next moment, a dazzling white light bloomed. Boom! An instant, white light enveloped a radius of several hundred meters. Kazekage closed his eyes unconsciously, and when he opened it again, he found that everything in front of him had disappeared. All gone. Just as Kazekage was in shock, the Earth King swept over with a katana. The end, Kazekage only had time to use the wings behind him to protect himself, and then the katana slashed on the wings. When there was a symphony of gold and iron, and the next moment Kazekage flew out directly, and cracks appeared on his wings. Not long after, he heard a crisp click, and the wings shattered directly, turning into countless iron sand. Fall down. Bang! Kazekage fell to the ground, and a mouthful of blood was sprayed out immediately. Dongshenyao didn't give Kazekage a chance to breathe, and the king of the earth took a few steps and came to Kazekage. Boom! The huge souls pressed down and directly stepped on Kazekage under his feet. Bang! A puff of smoke rose. The soles of his feet, Dongshenyao found that Kazekage had disappeared, replaced by a smashed tree stump. It's a substitute technique. The 360-degree Byakugan swept away, and Dongshenyao found Kazekage dozens of meters behind him. At this time, Kazekage was half kneeling on the ground and gasping for breath. So strong, I didn't expect Konoha village to have such a strong player besides Sarutobi Hiruzen. Are we going to lose again this time? At this moment, a trace of confusion appeared in Kazecage's eyes. It was just that he quickly thought of the situation in Sunagakure village over the years. When he thought that due to insufficient resources, many talents could not be well cultivated, and his strength had stagnated, and Kazecage's eyes showed a firm color. What about strong? I'm Kazekage, I can definitely beat you. Kazecage's body suddenly exuded an aura of courage. Jitten magnet style, sand iron samurai. A large amount of iron sand condensed in front of Kazekage. The next moment, these iron sand turned into a huge warrior with a height of 70 to 80 meters. At the same time, there was a huge samurai sword in the hand of the Sand Iron Warrior. Then Cage jumped on the Sand Iron Warrior. Go! Cage controlled the Sand Iron Samurai to charge towards Tashinyao. Soon the two giants were approaching, and they both waved their katana at the same time. When a deafening sound rang out, sparks splashed everywhere, and after a blow, the Sand Iron Warrior took a few steps back, while the Earth King remained motionless. As the embodiment of the Earth, the power of the Earth King is unimaginable. Come again. This time Dong Shenyao took the initiative to attack. Dang dang dang. The symphony of gold and iron continued to sound, and the Sand and Iron Warriors were beaten and retreated. Futon, wind-style, vacuum bomb. A huge air catapult shot out and directly bombarded the King of the Earth. Boom. Chapter 445, Cage escapes. The air bomb hit the King of the Earth, causing the King of the Earth to take 2 steps back. Taking this opportunity, the Sand Iron Warrior swung his samurai sword and slashed directly at the King of the Earth. Bang! The blade was so powerful that even Susanoo's transformed armor showed a crack, but the crack soon recovered. Just after the attack of the Iron Sand Warriors ended, the counterattack of the King of the Earth has come. I saw that the King of the Earth punched the Sand Iron Warrior. Bang! With one punch, the Iron Sand Warrior was repelled, and a large amount of iron sand fell. Just when the King of the Earth and the Iron Sand Warriors were fighting together, another cage-level master from Sunagakure village was extremely depressed. The strength of those undead warriors is not strong, and at most it is only the strength of Jonin, which poses no threat to him, but these undead warriors are immortal, and no matter what he does, they cannot completely solve these undead warriors. Even Sunagakure tried to get rid of all the undead warriors at one time. In the end, he consumed a lot of money, but the undead warriors recovered again not long after. The best way to deal with this situation is to seal. Unfortunately, although this 457 Sunagakure is powerful, he is not good at sealing. Hoo-hoo. Damn, what the hell is going on? Sunagakure was going crazy. At the same time, the battle between Konoha Ninja and Sunagakure is in full swing. Although Konoha still has the upper hand, it is impossible to completely defeat Sunagakure. For a time, the two sides fell into a stalemate. Bailongba. Dong Shenyao roared angrily, the dust was flying above the earth, and giant rock dragons rose into the sky. Each giant dragon was dozens of meters long. Although the number was not as exaggerated as 100, it was still 40 or 50. Strip. Go. Under the control of Dong Shenyao, dozens of giant rock dragons slid down like meteors and bombarded the Sand Iron Warriors. Boom. The Sand Iron Warrior wielded a samurai sword and smashed a rock giant dragon with one knife, but several rock giant dragons arrived shortly after. Although the Iron Sand Warrior was trying hard to attack, it only blocked less than half of the rock dragon, and the rest was bombarded by the Iron Sand Warrior. Although the Iron Sand Warriors are made of iron sand and are very hard, these rock dragons are not bad. When dozens of rock dragons disappeared, the Iron Sand Warriors were in tatters. Bang! The samurai sword was cut out again, and the King of the Earth cut off one arm of the Sand Iron Samurai with one sword. The spear emitting a misty white light appeared again in the hands of the King of the Earth, and then the spear was swung, and with a few swipes, the Sand Iron Warrior was already torn apart. At this moment Cage finally recognized the spear. Jinten particle style. How is this possible? Cage was shocked. Who didn't know that Jinten particle style was Tsuchikage's patent? He didn't expect Jinten particle style to appear in the hands of a Konoha ninja now. Bang! The King of the Earth hit Cage with a punch, and the huge force made Cage fly hundreds of meters before falling to the ground. This time, Cage fell hard. Fortunately, he is a master of cage level, otherwise even the elite Jonin has to get rid of Half-Life at once. PFF'd. After falling to the ground, Cage hit a big crater directly on the ground, and at the same time sprayed blood. Seeing that Cage was no match, another cage-level master from Sunagakure village was surprised. Run! Cage ran away after shouting. Did you run away? Dong Shenyao smiled disdainfully. The next moment the king of the earth disappeared, and Dong Shenyao's figure was suspended in the sky, and then he turned to look at another Sunagakur village cage-level master who was fighting with the undead warriors. Feeling that Dong Shenyao's eyes fell on him, Sunagakur was shocked. Although he is also a cage-level expert, his strength is much worse than Cage. Even Cage is not Dong Shenyao's opponent, let alone he is. Run! Not daring to neglect, Sunagakur took a hard blow from the undead warrior, broke out of the encirclement, and then ran away without looking back. Seeing that the two cage-level masters in Sunagakur village had already escaped, Dong Shenyao did not chase after them. Cage-level masters are not so easy to kill. After putting away the undead warriors, using Byakugan to scan, Dong Shenyao quickly found Jiraiya and the others. At this time, Jiraiya and the others were fighting against Sunagakur village. Although they were at a disadvantage in numbers, because Jiraiya and the others were not weak, they were on a par with Sunagakur. Especially with the help of Tsunade's medical ninjutsu, Orochimaru and the others are even more powerful. In order to train Tsunade and the others, Dong Shenyao did not rush to help, but returned to the village first. At this time, the battle in the village was at a stalemate, and with the arrival of Dong Shenyao, this situation was reversed. Hundreds of ninjas. In less than 10 minutes, he beheaded hundreds of Sunagakurs, and hundreds of Sunagakurs were seriously injured because of him. Retreat. Seeing that Dong Shenyao was unstoppable, Sunagakur had no choice but to retreat. However, this time Dong Shenyao did not choose to chase, because although Sunagakur was retreating at this time, the team was not scattered, but proceeded in an orderly manner, and with the large number of Sunagakur, even if the Konoha side pursued, it would not take much. The result of the battle, Dong Shenyao simply accepted it as soon as he saw it. After that, Dong Shenyao went to support Tsunade and the others. After killing one of them, the other three of them all fled. At dawn, the battle was over. Ha ha ha, we won. Jiraiya was overjoyed, he didn't expect that they would really win this battle. Your lord is amazing, Jiraiya said admiringly. Yeah, the adults blocked the two cage-level masters in Sunagakur village with one person, and they still won the battle. I'm afraid even Mr. Sarutobi can't do it. Orochimaru looked at Dongfang with a look of awe. God blesses. Tashinyo just smiled at Orochimaru's words, but didn't say anything. Yao is the best. Tsunade looked at Dong Shenyao with admiration. When the battle was over, Dong Shenyao led the people to start cleaning the battlefield. When everything was done, the time had come to the next morning. After a night of fighting, many people were exhausted. When they returned to the camp, they didn't even bother to eat, so they went straight into the room and began to rest. Ordinary ninjas can rest, but Tashinyao, the commander, can't. Sorting out the data recorded by his subordinates, Dong Shenyao found that Konoha lost more than 300 people in World War I yesterday, while Sunagakur lost more than 600 people. The 1-to-2 mortality rate, although Konoha got a bargain, but Tashinyao was not satisfied. As expected of the great ninja village, even the sneak attack only killed more than 300 people more than us. Dong Shenyao sighed. Thank you for the monthly ticket support of Broken Next. Chapter 446 Anomalies in Sunagakur Village. Led the Konoha ninja to fight Sunagakur, which can be said to have played the prestige of Konoha. With fewer enemies, they can still be defeated. Among them, Dong Shenyao fought two cage-level powerhouses alone, one of whom was Cage, but in the end, Cage was severely damaged and the two powerful enemies were repelled. After the First World War, Dong Shenyao was in the limelight for a while, and the entire ninja world was rumored with Dong Shenyao's record, and some people even proposed to raise him to the altar and become a ninja myth similar to Senju Hashirama and Uchiha Madara. But in the end, this is just a proposal. Compared with Senju Hashirama and the two, Tashinyao's battle is not enough. After all, Senju Hashirama both have a record of killing cage-level masters alone, which is unmatched by the current Tashinyao. In addition to Dong Shenyao himself, Konoha village is also worshipped by countless people for its record of fewer enemies and more enemies. As for Konoha's superiority because of sneak attacks, this matter has been subconsciously forgotten by many people. Not everyone can do more with less. At this time, everyone sighed. Konoha village's name as the largest village in the ninja world is not a vain name. On the contrary, Sunagakure village, which is the stepping stone of Konoha village, is out of luck, and its reputation has plummeted, especially Kazekage, even a junior can't beat it. For a loser, everyone subconsciously forgot the history of Kazekage, and now only remembers the humiliation in this battle, and even many people are questioning Kazekage, saying whether he has the strength to become the shadow of a village, and this sound also appeared in Sunagakure village. Kazekage suffered a headache for a while. He not only had to heal his wounds, but also to appease the people in the village. The offensive in Sunagakure village slowed down for a while, and finally he reached a plain more than 10 kilometers away from the Konoha camp. Go up and set up camp, and then there is no other movement. Sunagakure village calmed down, and Dongshenyao did not continue to attack them. After all, after the battle that night, Konoha village suffered a lot. However, 2 days later, reinforcements from Konoha village arrived, which increased the strength of Dongshenyao again. In addition to 2,000 ordinary ninjas, there is also a quasi-cage level master. As for cage level masters, there are not many Konoha villages now, and Konoha is currently fighting on 2 fronts, so I can't find too many. At present, Dongshenyao and the others have the upper hand, directly suppressing Sunagakure to the point of immobility, so Sarutobi Hiruzen did not send cage-level masters to Dongshenyao. On the other hand, Miyamura Harmony is full of masters. Originally they had 2 cage-level masters, Miyamura Harmony and Shimura Danzo, and a new generation of Ino-Shika Cho combination, although now a new generation the Ino-Shika Cho is not as good as the previous generation's combination, but the 3 together are invincible under the cage level, even against the powerhouses in the early cage level. But even so, they didn't get the slightest advantage against Iwagakure village, because Iwagakure village's Tsuchikage also arrived, along with another cage level master. The main force of Iwagakure village arrived earlier than Sunagakure village, so the 2 villages had fought several times before, but neither of them could defeat the other. Strong, although Miyamura Harmony is not weak, but in the end he has entered old age, his physical functions have degenerated, and his strength is no longer at its peak, so he can't stop Onoki at all. The end, only with Shimura Danzo can we suppress Onoki steadily. As for another cage-level master in Iwagakure village, he had just broken through and his strength was in the early stage of cage level, so he was resisted by the combination of Ino-Shika Cho. And this makes the number of quasi-shadows in Konoha village less than Iwagakure, so Konoha village is at a disadvantage. It is precisely because Miyamura Harmony and the others are at a disadvantage, so this time the reinforcements to reinforce them are stronger. The leader of the team is Yoshikawa Jiro, who is also an older generation of powerhouses. Although his strength has regressed, he is also a cage-level master. In addition, there was another Quenying to follow. With the addition of these 2 masters, the situation was suddenly reversed, and Konoha village had the upper hand. The battle between Konoha village and Iwagakure village was in full swing, and the battles continued. On the other hand, Dongshenyao was a little leisurely. Except for the occasional battle with Sunagakure village, Sunagakure village was huddled in the camp at other times. And because of the previous lesson, Sunagakure village strengthened its defenses at night, even if Dongshenyao wanted to sneak attack, he couldn't do it. In this regard, Dongshenyao can only choose to stalemate with Sunagakure village. Everyone else thought that Sunagakure was afraid of them, but Toshinyao didn't think so. No matter what, Kazekage personally participated in the battle. Even if they were afraid, they couldn't be so shy. Even Kazecage's reputation was damaged due to the previous battle. He should hope to have a war to restore his reputation. Although Kazekage was seriously injured, it has been nearly 10 days, and he should have been healed long ago, but so far there is still no movement. This had to make Dongshenyao wonder if there was any conspiracy in Sunagakure. Looking at the map in front of him, Dong Shenyao fell into deep thought. One person is short, and two are long. It seems that they are going to bring the others to discuss it. In this way, in the name of a meeting, Dong Shenyao brought the 4 quasi-shadows in the camp and some elite jonin with high status. Compared with the time of World War I, the strength of each village has weakened a lot at this time. First of all, let's talk about the number of quasi-shadows. During the First World War, there were no 8 or 9 quasi-shadows on any battlefield in Konoha village, even the top peak numbers are in the double digits. But now, the quasi-shadows of the 2 battlefields together barely reach double digits. Due to the reduction of quasi-shadows, the status of the elite jonin has been greatly enhanced. There is no way for Dong Shenyao to deal with this situation. Soon everyone came to the tent, but they didn't know what Dong Shenyao had brought him to. "Sir, what are you doing with us?" Jiraiya asked lazily. "Looks like you guys are really leisurely these days." Dong Shenyao teased when he saw that everyone didn't feel any sense of urgency due to the war. Hee. Everyone smiled embarrassedly. "Your life is really good. During the last ninja war, we were not as leisurely as you are now." "Well, let's not talk nonsense. This time I'm here to discuss something with you." Hearing what Dong Shenyao said, everyone became serious and waited for Dong Shenyao to say the following. Chapter 447 Discuss. Seeing that Dong Shenyao was so serious, everyone knew that Dong Shenyao was about to say something very important. Recently, Sunagakur village has been huddled in the camp. Even the battles are small scale. I don't know what you think about this. After speaking, Dong Shenyao glanced at everyone present. "What else can I see? Sunagakur must be afraid of us." Jiraiya was the first to speak, but Dong Shenyao ignored his words. "My lord, is Cage still recovering?" said an elite jonin. "Maybe they are waiting for reinforcements." "I think Cage is being held back by the Sunagakur village. I heard that there are people in the Sunagakur village who are now proposing to impeach Cage." Listening to the chatter of everyone below, Dong Shenyao didn't say a word, but there was still disappointment in his eyes. Although what these people said is good, most of them are chasing the wind, and even Dong Shenyao guessed that some information was deliberately leaked by Sunagakur village in order to confuse the public. Not long after, almost everyone said something, but none of them could make Dong Shenyao's eyes shine. Just when he was a little disappointed, Orochimaru spoke. "It has been nearly 10 days since Cage was injured. Cage should have recovered. If he has not recovered, it means that his injury is very serious. Then Sunagakur village should have retreated a long time ago, rather than stalemate with us here." But Cage recovered from his injury. Not only did he fail to find a way to pull back around, but he was now showing his enemy as weak, so there must be a conspiracy in Sunagakur village. Sunagakur village alone, even if we fight head to head, we will only win or lose the battle. There is even a high possibility that Sunagakur village will be defeated, so Sunagakur village must be waiting for reinforcements. As for what reinforcements are, just say no. All right. Hearing Orochimaru's analysis, Tashinyao couldn't help but nodded secretly, because Orochimaru's thoughts coincided with him, but Tashinyao was also unable to determine what the reinforcements were. "What do you think of Orochimaru's words?" Tashinyao finally spoke. "My lord, Orochimaru-sama's words have given us a lot of hints. If it is reinforcements, will it be Iwagakure? After all, they are allies now." An elite jonin guessed. "Impossible." Before Dong Shenyao could speak, the new Zunying denied this guess. "Iwagakure is also at war with us Konoha now, and they have now been suppressed by Miyamura Harmony, so Iwagakure has no energy to support Sunagakur at all. I think it may be Kumogakure village." "Why Kumogakure village? Can't it be Kurigakure village?" Jiraiya questioned. "Impossible. The second generation of Mizukage of Kurigakure village and the second generation of Tsuchikage died together, so it is impossible for the village of Kurigakure and Sunagakur to unite, because the village of Sunagakur and the village of Iwagakure are allies." The quasi-shadow directly rejected Jiraiya's guess. The reinforcements don't necessarily have to be from a ninja village, it could also be from Jinchuriki column force. Didn't Sunagakure village send out Jinchuriki column force in the last ninja war? Tsunade analyzed. This. No one could refute Tsunade this time. You don't have to think about the matter of human Jinchuriki column power. Even if Iwagakure village uses human Jinchuriki column power, it is impossible for Sunagakure village. Dong Shenyao overturned Tsunade's guess. Why? Tsunade was puzzled. You should all know what human Jinchuriki column power is. That is, a person with a tailed beast sealed within his body. And once the human Jinchuriki column power dies, the tailed beast sealed in his body will also die. Although the tailed beast is immortal, even if it dies together with the human Jinchuriki column force, it will be resurrected again in the future, but the time of this resurrection will be at least several years, and it may even take more than 10 years. The last ninja war, I killed the Jinchuriki column force of Sunagakure village with my own hands, and the tailed beast died along with it. It has only been 10 years now, even though the tailed beast has been resurrected and killed by Sunagakure, the village is remade for the power of the human Jinchuriki column, and the human Jinchuriki column force cannot have too strong strength in such a short period of time, so Sunagakure cannot have the power of the human Jinchuriki column. Hearing Dong Shenyao's explanation, everyone breathed a sigh of relief. Although they haven't seen it before, they have heard from their seniors that the power of the human Jinchuriki column is strong. When the Sunagakure village used the human Jinchuriki column power, it suppressed the Konoha village miserably. Since it's not a human Jinchuriki column force, could it really be Kumogakure village? Jiraiya asked. There is some possibility, but it is not very likely, because if Kumogakure village really takes action, they will not be able to come to the country of rain. After all, it is too far away, so the biggest possibility of Kumogakure village is to directly attack the country of fire. At that time, Sarutobi will naturally handle this matter, so there is not much pressure on us, so the probability of reinforcements coming from Kumogakure village is very small. Dong Shenyao analyzed. Orochimaru didn't speak for a long time, while he was staring at the map. Sir. Orochimaru was suddenly agitated. What's wrong? Dong Shenyao looked at the big snake with anticipation, hoping that he could make some useful guesses again. My lord, we have actually ignored a faction until now. Orochimaru stared at the map tightly. Power. Looking at the map, Dong Shenyao suddenly had a flash of light in his mind. Orochimaru, you mean a Megakure village? That's right, although a Megakure village has always been neutral, and they didn't even take action during the last ninja war. But nothing is absolute in this world. Once a Megakure village, which is a local snake, and Sunagakure village are united, then for the very bad for us. Quote. Hearing Orochimaru's words, many people's hearts sank. Although the strength of a Megakure village is not as strong as that of the 5 great ninja kingdoms, it is still among the top 5.5 among the small ninja villages, especially the village chief. Although there are more than one cage-level masters in the major ninja villages, there is only one who can become a shadow. It shows how strong the shadow is, and at least he must be a master at the later stage of cage level. Other words, Hanzo is at least a late-stage cage-level master. If there is such a master to help Sunagakure village, it will be too unfavorable for them. Didn't I ask you to keep monitoring the movements of a Megakure village? Is there anything unusual about them now? Dong Shenyao looked at the crowd and asked. No sir, a Megakure village has been quite peaceful, and even since the beginning of the Ninja World War, people in a Megakure village rarely go out. An elite Jonin replied. Then, strengthen the surveillance of a Megakure village from now on. Chapter 448 A Megakure Village in Action. 3 days have passed since that day's meeting, and the village of Sunagakure is still so peaceful that it is impossible to guess what they are thinking. Although it is speculated that Sunagakure village is waiting for reinforcements, and even the reinforcements may be a Megakure village, but now all this is speculation. Before it happened, Dong Shenyao couldn't do anything, so he simply handed over the management to Shadow Clone, and he himself began to practice. In addition to cultivating Yijinjing and refining chakra, Dong Shenyao also devoted a part of his energy to perfecting his skills, just like the country of Huang Izumi. Although the last time he used it, it seemed to work well, but that was only because the first once used, the enemy is not prepared at all. If you know this skill, then if you fight in the future, as long as the enemy prepares to seal the scroll in advance, and then seals the undead warrior, this skill of Dong Shenyao will be abolished. So Dong Shenyao must improve this skill. Dong Shenyao is full of expectations for this skill in the kingdom of Huang Izumi. It was only considered a semi-finished product before. Once this skill is completely completed, Dong Shenyao believes that this skill alone can really hold back a Cage level 15 master. This day, Dong Shenyao was cultivating as usual, and suddenly he received a memory, which was passed on to him by Shadow Clone. Someone is looking for me. Dong Shenyao was stunned for a moment, and then he hurriedly came out of the retreat. In order to avoid being disturbed, he has always practiced in seclusion underground. Jonin, who was in charge of managing intelligence, was waiting for him here. My lord, there is a situation. The elite Jonin suddenly became a little excited when he saw Dong Shenyao. What's the situation? There is movement in the village of Omegakure, my lord. Oh, this time Dong Shenyao also knew that things were not easy. Tell me in detail. The face of Dong Shenyao's inquiry, the elite Jonin did not dare to neglect, and hurriedly told all the information he had inquired. It turned out that just a few hours ago, many people came out of Omegakure village one after another. Although these people seem to be ordinary civilians, it is a critical period now, and there are too many people coming out. Konoha ninjas who were investigating outside Omegakure village quickly reported the news back. A lot of ordinary people. After Dong Shenyao got the news, he immediately frowned. Have you figured out the whereabouts of these people? Dong Shenyao asked. I have inquired. Some of the people went to nearby villages and towns, but some of them disappeared. After getting such an answer, Dong Shenyao's expression suddenly became solemn. Send an order, everyone is on guard. Yes. Soon Dong Shenyao's order spread throughout the entire camp. Although many people do not know why Dong Shenyao issued this order, due to the previous consecutive victories, Dong Shenyao's reputation has soared, and he has completely conquered it. These people, so everyone will seriously implement his orders, whether they understand it or not. A day passed in a blink of an eye, and it was dark and nothing happened, but Dong Shenyao still did not relax. Because it is better to do useless work than to cause serious consequences due to temporary negligence. Soon it was late at night, and most of the ninjas had already fallen asleep. Only the patrolling ninjas were still sticking to their posts. Even due to the orders from Dong Shenyao during the day, the guards became more stringent tonight, and a few specially dispatched. The people of the Hyuga family are monitoring the surrounding situation in shifts. Soon the time came to midnight. Although these Konoha ninjas were doing their duty, they were still a little sleepy and began to lose their concentration. At this moment, a ninja of the Hyuga clan suddenly trembled, and his face became solemn. Not good. Enemy attack. This Hyuga ninja were like a stimulant, instantly awakening everyone. What's going on? A squad leader on the side asked quickly. An enemy is approaching from 1,000 meters away. The Hyuga ninja knew that the situation was urgent, so his words were very succinct. No need to ask any more questions. The team leader did not dare to neglect, and quickly ordered his subordinates to call up everyone he was with, and he even went to find Dong Shenyao in person. When Dong Shenyao was awakened and learned that an enemy was approaching, he lost sleep. Not many, all the ninjas in the camp were awakened, but because they were afraid that the enemy would find out, there was no voice. Soon everyone gathered. Follow my orders now. The patrolling ninjas use Shadow Clone to continue guarding the camp. Orochimaru, you bring someone to set up some detonators at the gate of the camp, others come with me. Following Dong Shenyao's order, everyone took action. Orochimaru took the people to the gate of the camp, while Dong Shenyao took the people and left the camp directly. For fear of being discovered by the Konoha ninjas, those enemies deliberately slowed down their movements, which gave Tashinyao more time to make arrangements. There was no one in the camp except Shadow Clone, but it was invisible on the surface. Seeing that they were less than 100 meters away from the camp, dozens of ninjas rushed out of the team. As they approached the gate of the camp, they learned how Dong Shenyao attacked Sunagaku before, and one by one channeled out. He wanted to use them to destroy the gate. Boom! A bang sounded, and the gate was quickly destroyed. Enemy attack. Shadow clones who remained started acting one by one, as if they had just discovered them. The enemy directly pursued the victory and rushed in from the broken gate. Seeing that many people gathered at the gate, Orochimaru hand sealed with both hands. Blast! With a light drink from Orochimaru, there was a deafening explosion near the gate. Boom! 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 The sound of explosions sounded one after another, the fire was everywhere, and thick smoke rose into the sky. In an instant, hundreds of ninjas were killed, and many others were injured. Go! While the enemy was stunned by the sudden explosion, Dong Shenyao shouted, and then activated his skills first. Meteorites fall. Beilongba. Immediately afterwards, everyone's ninjutsu came. Futon, wind style, vacuum sphere. Futon, wind style, wind blade. Kaden, fire style, great fireball jutsu. All kinds of ninjutsu mixed together, flew out of the woods, and went straight to the enemy dozens of meters away. It turned out that Dong Shenyao had already secretly ambushed near the gate with people, waiting for the arrival of the enemy. Not good. At this time, it was not clear where the enemy was, and there was an ambush among them. Chapter 449 The sneak attack failed to be countered by X. At the beginning, the explosion at the gate of the camp not only killed hundreds of enemies, but also made the team chaotic. Then a large number of ninjutsu and ninja tools caught the enemy by surprise. Immediately, hundreds of people fell and a large number of ninjas were injured. This is still because there are strong people who have blocked a lot of ninjutsu, especially someone who smashed the huge meteorite made by Dong Shenyao, otherwise, I am afraid that more people will die. Kill. After a wave of attacks, Dong Shenyao shouted and ran out of the woods in the lead. In an instant, Dong Shenyao had entered the crowd, and he swung the shadow chopping blade, blood splashed, and no one could block his move. Remember that when Dong Shenyao killed more than 20 people in a row, he finally met a strong man. When the symphony of gold and iron sounded, and a ninja used a scythe-like weapon to block Tashinyao's attack. After a blow, the two retreated at the same time. Dong Shenyao did not continue to shoot, but carefully looked at the person in front of him. Mask. Looking at the gas mask on the ninja's face and the very iconic weapon in his hand, Dong Shenyao instantly recognized his identity. Demigod and Hanzo. Dong Shenyao did not expect that Hanzo would actually take action himself. You are Dong Shenyao? Hanzo asked after looking at Dong Shenyao for a moment. That's right, I didn't expect you to take action, Hanzo. Is your Omegakure village going to fight our Konoha? So what if we start a war? Hanzo said with an expressionless face. Very well, in that case, I hope your Omegakure village can withstand the revenge of our Konoha village. Ha ha ha, Dong Shenyao, what's so scary about your Konoha village? Our Sunagaku village will destroy you sooner or later. The laughter sounded, and then saw the 3 generations of cage guards approaching, followed by another person silently. Appearing around Dong Shenyao, 3 people surrounded Dong Shenyao from 3 directions. 3 cage-level masters, you really like me. Dong Shenyao said after glancing at the 3. No way, who made you so strong? Cage was not embarrassed at all. At this time, the ninjas on both sides were already fighting together. Originally, Sunagaku village and Omegakure village jointly planned to attack Konoha, but they did not expect that their plan had failed, and Konoha village noticed in advance, so that they not only failed the attack, but were instead given to Konoha by Konoha. Counter-attack. Due to the loss of a large number of ninjas at the beginning, the strength of the 2 villages was greatly reduced, and chaos occurred, so the Konoha village had the upper hand for a time. This is not a place to fight, come with me if you have the guts. Said, Dong Shenyao ran straight into the distance. Cage from Dong Shenyao's move, they just followed closely. Although he is about to face 3 cage level masters, including Cage and Hanzo, who are strong in cage level, Dong Shenyao has no fear, not only because he has confidence in his own strength, but also because he knows the technique of Hiraishin, and if he wants to leave, they can't stop him. Soon Dong Shenyao stopped in a forest several thousand meters away from the battlefield. It didn't take long for the 3 of Cage to arrive. As before, the 3 surrounded Dong Shenyao in the middle. Gravity field. Soon as the 3 of them arrived, Dong Shenyao took the first shot. The huge gravity made the bodies of the 3 of Cage vibrate at the same time, and then Dong Shenyao stomped the ground. House of Flying Daggers. Whoosh whoosh. A large number of earth thorns rose. If Dong Shenyao uses this move on others, even the elite Jonin will be injured, but unfortunately, he is facing 3 cage level masters at this time. Bang! With a wave of the sickle in his hand, Hanzo directly smashed all the thorns around his body. Jident magnet style, sand iron sky wing. Cage flew, and the other Sunagaker, like Hanzo, smashed the thorns. Although the field of gravity affected the 3, it was not fatal. And just when the 3 of them resisted the earth thorn, Dong Shenyao had disappeared in place, and the next moment, his figure appeared behind that Sunagaker. Be careful, Cage reminded quickly. PFF'd. Due to Cage's timely reminder, Sota escaped Dong Shenyao's attack, but the clothes on his back were torn. Dong Shenyao shook his head regretfully, and then his figure disappeared again, and the next moment, Hanzo's sickle cut across the place where Dong Shenyao was standing. When? This time Dong Shenyao appeared behind Hanzo, but his attack was blocked by Hanzo. Although there is no trace of the Hiraishin technique, if the master is prepared, he can still detect it in advance. Hanzo didn't turn around either, turned his back to Dong Shenyao directly, and used his left hand to hold Kuwu to block the shadow-slashing sword, but the next moment Dong Shenyao suddenly had a soil thorn in front of his chest. PFF'd. This time Hanzo didn't dodge completely, the blood was low, and a wound appeared on Hanzo's back. What a weird ability. Cage couldn't help but exclaimed as he looked at Dong Shenyao's chest. Don't fight him in close quarters, we are not opponents in terms of physical skills. Cage reminded. I see. After replying, Hanzo bit his fingers and started to hand seal with both hands. Dong Shenyao did not stop him. This time, his goal was on Sota, because Sota was one of the 3. The weakest among them, persimmons have to be soft. Beilongba. Dong Shenyao waved his hand, and suddenly a stone dragon rose from the ground, and dozens of stone dragons were suspended in the air, which looked very spectacular. Not good. Jident magnet style, sand and iron strike. The Cage ninjutsu was activated, and the iron sand immediately gathered into a huge round Jinchuriki, column body, which went straight to hit the stone dragon in the sky. Go! Dong Shenyao waved his hand, and the sky-filled Shalong rushed towards Kangtai. Bang! 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 Jinchuriki column body of the sand iron circle kept bombarding the stone dragon, and almost every blow could smash a stone dragon, but it was useless, because there were too many stone dragons. Kaden fire style, head hard. Woo! A large fire spewed out, and the Shalong, which was affected, exploded immediately. The flames lasted for nearly 10 seconds, and more than half of the stone dragons were destroyed, but there were still more than 10 stone dragons left. Boom! Shalong bombarded the ground, and the explosion sounded, and Kangtai was instantly covered by smoke. At this point Cage looked worried. Ninja spiritualism. Hanzo pressed his palm to the ground, only to hear a bang, and smoke rose. Soon the breeze blew, the smoke dissipated, and then a huge ninja beast appeared at Hanzo's feet. This is a huge mountain pepperfish, a ninja beast that accompanies Hanzo to grow. It can be said that a large part of Hanzo's strength comes from this psychic, so Hanzo is also called Hanzo of the Salamander. Chapter 451 against 3. After using the psychic technique, a huge Sanshoyu appeared in the field, and at this time Hanzo was standing on the back of the Sanshoyu. Jident magnet style, sand and iron rain. At this time, Kazekage, who was flying in the air, launched an attack on Tashinyao, and a large amount of iron sand hit Tashinyao. Earth Shield. A rock shield appeared in front of Dongshenyao, blocking the iron sand's attack for him. Bang, bang, bang. A large amount of iron sand bombarded the shield one after another, causing a cloud of smoke. Because the iron sand was continuous, the shield was blown up not long after, but at this time Dongshenyao had disappeared in place. When the smoke cleared, a deep pit appeared where King Tai was standing, but King Tai didn't know where to go. King Tai. Kazekage gave a worried cry. Lord Kazekage, I'm here, don't worry. At this moment, a shout rang out, and I saw that King Tian was dozens of meters away from the deep pit, but at this time his clothes were damaged, and it was obvious that he had just escaped Shalong's attack, but it was also affected. Ah, King Tai, be careful, Kazekage suddenly shouted. It turned out that Dongshenyao quietly appeared behind King Tai. PFF'd. The shadow-cutting knife pierced into King Tai's body, but the next moment, King Tai had disappeared into smoke. Shadow clone. Dongshenyao was stunned for a moment, then the ground cracked, and 543 stretched out an arm and grabbed it directly on Dongshenyao's leg. Come down for me. Dongshenyao's whole body was pulled directly into the soil, and then King Tai jumped out. Ha ha ha. Laughing loudly, King Tai waved the Kuwu thorn towards Dongshenyao. King Tai, run quickly. Huh. King Tai was stunned when he heard Kazecage's voice, and at this moment, another Dongshenyao appeared behind King Tai. PFF'd. The shadow-chopping blade pierced into King Tai's body, but this time King Tai didn't turn into smoke, just because of Kazecage's reminder. Dongshenyao did not pierce into King Tai's heart, but stabbed the right side of his body. Side. King Tai didn't care about the injuries on his body, so he rushed forward and pulled the shadow-slaying saber out of King Tai's body. At the same time, a huge soul fell from the sky. It turned out that Hanzo ordered the Sanjiaoyu to attack Dongshenyao. Boom. The huge souls of the Sanjiaoyu stepped on the ground, and the ground suddenly cracked, but Dongshenyao escaped ahead of time. As for the buried Dongshenyao, it turned into smoke and disappeared. The battle begins again. The King of the Earth. The huge rock giant appeared again. Dongshenyao's body was integrated into the rock giant, and then the armor was attached to the rock giant. Jident magnet style, the sand iron warrior. Kazekage was not to be outdone. Although he lost last time, he did not shy away. Bang! As soon as they got up, the two giants fought. I'm coming too. Hanzo was not to be outdone. Sancho fish, use poisonous mist spray. Following Hanzo's order, the huge Serrano fish opened its mouth, and suddenly bursts of black and purple smoke spewed out, and went straight to the King of the Earth to take it. Soon the King of the Earth was covered by the poisonous mist, and only a sound of zzz sounded, and the armor outside the King of the Earth was actually corroded. What a powerful poisonous fog! Dongshenyao was a little surprised. After all, these armors are Susano, and there are not many people who can break Susano in the original book. Although the poisonous fog can bring some damage to the King of the Earth, it is useless, because it will recover quickly, and Dongshenyao is not a fool, allowing the poisonous fog to attack himself. I saw that he controlled the King of the Earth and quickly left the range covered by the poisonous fog. At this time, the Iron Sand Warrior's attack came again. Boom! After the two fought each other, the King of the Earth directly forced the Sand Iron Warrior back, and at the same time the Mountain Pepperfish attacked again. This time it did not use the poisonous mist, but directly hit it with its huge body. On the King of the Earth. The huge power made the King of the Earth unconsciously take 2 steps back. Kaden, Fire Style, Fire God. At this time, Sota dragged the injured body and used ninjutsu. Flames spewed out, but these flames did not burn Dongshenyao, but turned into a flame giant more than 30 meters high. Of course, this giant looked a little short in front of the King of the Earth. Like a son facing his father. Bang! The king of the earth lifted his foot and directly kicked the flame giant out. Seeing this, King Tai's mouth twitched, but there was no way, who made him weak, so he could only make such a large flame giant. Sweden, water style, water breaks waves. Hanzo stood above the head of the Sanshoyu, hand seal with both hands, and the next moment a small high-pressure water Jinchuriki column spit out. Boom! The water Jinchuriki column bombarded the king of the earth. Although this did not break the armor outside, it also made the king of the earth sway. Taking this opportunity, the sand and iron samurai slashed the king of the earth with a knife. At the same time, the short flame giant rushed to the side of the king of the earth, and then the flames all over his body fluctuated violently, like boiling water. Blast! As King Tai shouted loudly, the fire suddenly burst into the sky. Boom! The explosion sounded, and the flame giant actually exploded. The huge impact made the Earth King directly retreat more than 10 steps. At the same time, he suffered severe attacks one after another, and the armor of the Earth King also appeared cracks. After all, although Dong Shenyao has the eternal Mangekyo, his strength is still not as good as Uchiha Madara. Damn it! The country of Huang Izumi. The ground turned into a swamp, and then one rock giant crawled out. After seeing these rock giants, a sneer appeared on the corner of King Tai's mouth. He had made a lot of preparations to deal with these rock giants. King Tai, these giants are handed over to you. After shouting, Kazekage once again controlled a huge sand iron Jinchuriki column to hit the king of the earth. Shinra Tensai, Almighty Push, sign. Boom! A huge repulsion force was sent out, which directly blasted Kazekage, and then the king of the earth punched the Sanjiao. The huge force made the Sanjiao fish fly upside down. The art of the blue dragon. Boom! The earth shook, and then saw a huge stone dragon condensed from the ground. The stone dragon was over 100 meters long, and its body diameter reached more than 10 feet. This skill was developed by Tashinyao based on wood dragon jutsu in Mokuden wood style. After the Shillong appeared, he directly entangled the Sanjiao fish, and then opened its huge dragon mouth and kept biting at it. The mountain pepper fish fought fiercely, but it was useless, Shillong's strength was too great. Damn! Sweden, water style, water breaks. Hanzo kept attacking Shillong and wanted to rescue the Sanjiao fish. Chapter 441 1 dead and 2 wounded. Hanzo's attack is very sharp, but Kanglong has the ability to regenerate. Whenever Hanzo smashes a part of Kanglong will recover soon, which gives Hanzo a headache. Seeing that Hanzo was temporarily entangled by Kanglong, and King Tai was also dealing with those undead warriors, all of Dong Shenyao's energy was immediately focused on Kazekage. Kazekage, die! Dong Shenyao let out a loud roar, and a spear appeared on the left hand of the Earth King. Seeing the spear transformed by Jinten particle style, Kazecage's face became solemn. He had experienced the power of Jinten particle style. Once hit, he will not survive. Bang! The long hair slashed and directly cut off an arm of the Iron Sand Warrior, and then the King of the Earth slammed forward, knocking the Iron Sand Warrior to the ground. Boom! The huge body of the Iron Sand Giant fell to the ground and immediately overwhelmed a tree. Come here, Bansho Tenon, Universal Pull. Suction, Kazekage flew towards the King of the Earth unconsciously. Not good. Kazekage flapped his wings hard, trying to get away from the Earth King, but the suction was so strong that Kazekage couldn't resist. Bang! A knife slashed directly on Kazecage's body. At the last moment, Kazekage used his wings to protect himself, so he was not cut in half, but the huge impact also caused Kazekage to suffer internal injuries, and his body fell to the ground. Meteorites fall. The huge meteor fell, and Kazekage had no time to dodge, so he could only use Jitten magnet style to resist, but before he could completely smash the meteor had already smashed to the ground. Boom! The meteorite fell to the ground. The explosion sounded, and the billowing waves spread to the surroundings. Lord Kazekage. Seeing this, King Tai couldn't help but exclaimed. At this time, due to his distraction, he was suddenly punched in the back by the undead warrior. Bang! The huge force directly knocked Kang Tai flying. PFF'd. Blood spurted out. Bang! Smoke was angry, and Sanjiao could no longer stop Kanglong's attack, and had to return to the psychic world. Damn! Hanzo's face was very ugly. He didn't think that even one of Dong Shenyao's skills could not be dealt with. After killing the Sanjiao fish, the blue dragon soared into the sky, then descended from the sky and smashed towards Hanzo. Break me! Sweden, water style, water gun. Hanzo hand seal opened his mouth. He suddenly spit out a large amount of water, which turned into a long spear, and a giant dragon coiled around the long spear. Boom! The long spear collided with Kanglong, and an explosion sounded, and then Kanglong's head exploded directly, and countless pieces of rubble flew around. In the end, most of Kanglong's body was shattered, and the long spear also turned into a clear stream and fell to the ground. Bang! The small half of Kanglong's body fell to the ground, immediately crushing a large number of plants, and even smashing a big hole on the ground. Seeing that the three of them had nothing to do with Dong Shenyao, Hanzo decided to retreat. At this moment, Dong Shenyao was already eyeing Hanzo. Through Byakugan Tashinyao saw that Kage was seriously injured, so Tashinyao didn't care about him for the time being. Hanzo, since you're here today, you can stay. With a loud roar, the Earth King stepped on Hanzo. Whoosh! Hanzo evaded with a flash, but Dong Shenyao was relentless and chased after him directly, and Hanzo suffered some minor injuries not long after. Kaden, fire style, exploding flame formation. Suddenly, the ground beneath the King of Earth's feet sank, revealing a large number of detonating talismans. Boom, boom, boom. The explosion sounded one after another, and the huge body of the King of the Earth was covered by smoke in an instant. Success! Hanzo gasped, looking at the smoky place. At this time, Sutai finally sealed all the undead warriors, and then hurried over to check on Kage's situation. Lord Kage. Take me away, Kage said reluctantly. Yes. Although he didn't know why, Kanta was very obedient and didn't ask any more questions, but just as he was about to take Kage away, Dong Shenyao's figure suddenly appeared in front of the two of them. Want to go? It's too late, said. Dong Shenyao slashed at Kage with a slashing sword. Jiden, magnet style, magnetic shield. Suddenly, Dong Shenyao noticed a repulsive force, which prevented the shadow chopping blade from falling. At this time, he realized that the shadow chopping blade was metal, so it was restrained by Jiden, magnet style. If that's the case, Dong Shenyao put away the shadow chopping blade and punched Kage. At this time, King Tai had already reacted and quickly let go of Kage to block Dong Shenyao's attack. Although the smoke hadn't dissipated, Hanzo discovered the situation in Kage, which let him know that his attack just now didn't hurt Tashinyao. Immediately, Hanzo no longer hesitated, and hurried over. Bang! After kicking Fei Soda, Dong Shenyao didn't care about Kage anymore, but approached Sutai with a speed. Bang! Dong Shenyao's fist turned into a rock hammer and smashed directly into Kang Tai's mouth. At this time, Hanzo rushed over. Hanzo, take Kage-sama away, leave me alone. Soda shouted. Hanzo also knew that if they continued to fight, they might destroy the entire army, so he immediately pulled up Kage and ran into the distance. Dong Shenyao didn't care about Hanzo and the two of them, and attacked Soda with all his strength. He wanted Soda to stay today. Die! Suddenly Dong Shenyao let out a loud cry, and then countless earth thorns shot out from Dong Shenyao's body. At this time, Kang Tai had just blocked an attack from Dong Shenyao, and there was no time to resist. Puff puff. In an instant, Kang Tai was hit by countless earth thorns, and the whole person turned into a hedgehog. With the fall of Sutai, this battle involving 4 Kage-level masters finally ended, and ended with the defeat of Sunagakure and Omegakure villages. 3 Kage-level masters who besieged Dong Shenyao, 1 death, 1 serious injury and 1 minor injury. This record can be described as brilliant. If Dong Shenyao does 1 or 2 more things like this, then he will be enough to be consecrated. After killing Kang Tai, Dong Shenyao sealed his corpse. After all, he was a cage-level expert. Even a corpse was very valuable. Then he rushed to the battlefield. When Dong Shenyao returned to the vicinity of the camp, he found that the battle here was coming to an end. Maybe he got the news that the coalition forces of Sunagakure village and Amegakure village were slowly retreating. Makes Konoha village unable to find the opportunity to shoot. The end, Dong Shenyao only released a few skills to kill some ninjas, and then let the people from Sunagakure and Amegakure villages leave. After a big battle, Dong Shenyao wasted a lot of money, and he could not occupy Konoha village if he continued to fight. How much cheaper? Chapter 452 Fame. Since the battle took place outside the village, there was nothing in Konoha's camp except for the damage to the gate, so when the battle was over, the camp could still be used. After cleaning the battlefield, the sky was getting brighter. At this time, everyone began to rest one after another. At this time, Dong Shenyao was listening to his subordinates report the results of this time. This time Sunagakure village and Amegakure village joined forces. The total number of ninjas from both sides is nearly 4,000. After the final count, more than 700 ninjas were killed in the two villages, while the Konoha side lost about 400 people. This way, Konoha village can be considered a bargain, and Sunagakure village suffered the most. A cage-level master was killed by Dong Shenyao. Although it was only the early stage of cage level, it was still a big blow to Sunagakure village. Soon the results of this battle spread, and Konoha and Sunagakure became famous again, but Konoha was famous, while Sunagakure became a laughing stock, and even Amegakure suffered. Many people are secretly laughing at Sunagakure village's attempt to steal chickens this time. Dong Shenyao's invincible prestige made him one step closer to the altar. Facing the attack and killing of 3 cage-level masters, Dong Shenyao not only did not fall, but instead severely injured one person, beheaded one person, and even injured Hanzo, known as a demigod. After the First World War, Cage's popularity declined again. On the other hand, Ta Shenyao became the most dazzling star in the ninja world and the object of countless people's worship. With this defeat, it can be expected that Sunagakure village will not have the strength to launch a large-scale attack in a short period of time. After all, even their cage has been seriously injured, and a cage-level master has died. How dare you easily attack Konoha, go to war. The victory here also gave Miyamura harmony and the others greater encouragement. For a time, the morale of Konoha village was so high that Iwagakure village was overwhelmed. Even Kei Uehara, who had been preventing Sunagakure village from attacking, couldn't sit still. He directly joined forces with Hitaki Sakumo and led a man to attack the Land of Wind, killing a lot of Sunagakure villagers. For a while, Sunagakure village was attacked from the back and forth, making him devastated. Sarutobi Hiruzen, who heard the news, was overjoyed and laughed from ear to ear all day long. Compared with the last Ninja World War, Konoha village fought very easily this time. Since the war started, the good news has not stopped. After this battle, Dong Shenyao and the others relaxed again. However, Dong Shenyao did not let his subordinates relax for too long. This time, since Amegakure village made a move, it also means that it has allied with Sunagakure village and Iwagakure village. Since Dong Shenyao is so polite, he immediately dispatched his staff to start blocking Amegakure village. Although Amegakure village has been relatively low-key since the start of the war, it is impossible for Amegakure to stay in the village all the time, and sometimes he will come out to perform some tasks, so these people will suffer. As long as they dare to leave Amegakure village, it will not take long. Will be blocked by the Konoha ninja. Facing the harassment of Konoha village, Amegakure village had no choice but to hide in the village and did not dare to come out. After all, even their leader Jinchuriki, Column Hanzo of Amegakure village, was defeated. How could Amegakure village have the courage to confront Konoha head-on? After more than half a month of cultivation, Sunagakure village launched an attack on Konoha again, and Dong Shenyao found that there were many ninjas from other villages in Sunagakure. After thinking about Dong Shenyao for a while, he understood, obviously these ninjas should all be attached to those small ninja villages in Sunagakure village. With the addition of these affiliated ninja villages, the strength of Sunagakure village has been slightly enhanced, so it is a good fight with Konoha, but basically every time Sunagakure village will be at a disadvantage. During this period, neither Dongshinyao nor Keizukage made a move, but Tsunade and the others would fight with the Sunagakure village from time to time. With the continuous battle, the strength of Tsunade's three people is rising steadily, and it is close to the peak. The other quasi-shadow of Konoha is also good. In the blink of an eye, another half a month passed, and Dongshinyao got the news that Iwagakure actually used the power of Jinchuriki column. It turned out that in this month, Iwagakure village was suppressed too badly. In desperation, they could only choose to use the power of Jinchuriki column. In the end, the power of Jinchuriki column did not disappoint Iwagakure village. As soon as the force was released, the situation of the battle was directly reversed. Iwagakure village turned defeat into victory, and unexpectedly defeated Konoha. Of course, Konoha was not weak, so even though he was defeated, he did not give Iwagakure village a chance to pursue the victory. After that, the two sides fought several times. Because they were already prepared, Konoha was not as passive as the first time, but he was still suppressed by Iwagakure village. I have already used the force of Jinchuriki column. It seems that Iwagakure village is really in a hurry. I just don't know if another person from Iwagakure village, the Jinchuriki column force, can also enter the battlefield. At this time, Dongshinyao was a little worried. Stand up. We'll not forget that there are two-tailed beasts in Iwagakure village, and only one is used now. If the other is also on the battlefield, I am afraid that Miyamura Harmony and the others will not be able to stop them. However, the human Jinchuriki column force is not so easy to use. If the general human Jinchuriki column force cannot get along well with the tailed beast, then once the power of the tailed beast is used too many times, it is likely to go berserk. The enemy is indistinguishable. It is also the human Jinchuriki column force that has such drawbacks, so the human Jinchuriki column force is rarely used during the battle of the ninja village, unless it is a last resort. Seeing that Miyamura Harmony and the others were caught in a hard fight, Dongshinyao was not ready to delay any longer. Sunagakure village, it's time to deal with you. Although there were still a lot of people in Sunagakure village at this time, Dongshinyao didn't take them seriously, because in terms of high-end combat power, Sunagakure village was too far behind them by 0.2. Since the start of the war, in addition to Keizukage, Sunagakure village has also shown two cage-level masters, but one of them was severely injured by Dongshinyao, and one arm was cut off. Killed by Dongshinyao. Keizukage alone can't stop him at all, so he has the confidence to beat Sunagakure in a short amount of time. Suddenly the war broke out. This time Dongshinyao didn't choose to sit next to him, and shot directly. Seeing that Dongshinyao had already made his move, Keizukage couldn't sit still. Although he knew that he was not an opponent, he could only bite the bullet and fight Dongshinyao. As for Hanzo, he stayed in Imegakure village and did not choose to help Sunagakure village. In just half a month, nearly 5 battles broke out in Shuangfang, almost every 3 days. Chapter 453 Half a year. As time went by, the country of rain became more and more chaotic. At the beginning, the two sides at war were still concentrated in a small area, but gradually, the war spread to the whole country of rain. The reason for this was mainly for resources. In addition to needing people, fighting also requires resources. After all, whether it is food, drink, or the medicines that you use, they are all consumables that need to be replenished. Sunagakure village and Iwagakure village were already short of resources. In addition, the last Ninja World War was defeated by Konoha. The two villages compensated a lot of resources, which made the two villages even more stretched. After several months of fighting, the logistical supplies of the two villages were gradually unable to keep up. In desperation, they could only rely on robbing. As for whoever robbed, it was naturally the land of rain, who let them be in the rain now. Within the territory of the country, the moon is the first to be near the water tower. As for them being allies with the land of rain, sorry, they don't care. For the development of their own village, even if they are allies. As a result, the fragile alliance between Amegakure village, Sunagakure village and Iwagakure village was instantly broken. Seeing that the villages of Sunagakure and Iwagakure started to plunder in the land of rain, Konoha village certainly would not stand by and watch, and soon Konoha ninjas also took action, and while they were plundering resources, they would also attack Sunagakure and Iwagakure who were also plundering resources. In short, the ninjas on both sides will fight as soon as they meet. Many villages and towns in the land of rain have suffered. Not only will they face the plundering of the three ninja villages, but sometimes when a war breaks out between the two sides in the villages and towns, a lot of people will die. Faced with this situation, Amegakure village could not stand idly by. After all, the land of rain was their foundation. Once the land of rain was destroyed, they would also suffer. So the village of Amegakure went to war against the three major ninja villages including Konoha at the same time. Of course, Amegakure village will not fight the three major ninja villages head-on. They are just constantly attacking those ninjas who go out to plunder in the land of rain. In this way, the situation in the country of rain is getting more and more chaotic, but this has reduced the large-scale battles a lot, and turned into small-scale battles. Every day, there will be one or two small-scale battles in the Kingdom of Rain. Three ninja village also wins and loses. In the blink of an eye, half a year has passed. After the last 6 months of fighting, the situation on the battlefield has gradually become clear. Under the leadership of Dong Shenyao, Sunagakure village has been completely suppressed. If there is no accident, Sunagakure will be defeated sooner or later. The other hand, Miyamura Harmony and the others, although they have more powerhouses, they are at a disadvantage in the face of Iwagakure. Of course, their situation is much better than that of Sunagakure. Although they are at a disadvantage, they can hold on in a short time. Will not be defeated. Learning about Iwagakure's situation, Keisuke was jealous. He often wondered if their village's Jinchuriki column force hadn't been killed. Would their situation be the same as Iwagakure's village? Konoha suppressed it. But unfortunately, Keisuke just thought about it. Although Ikiku Shukaku has been resurrected and captured by Sunagakure village again, he has just made adult Jinchuriki column power. Human Jinchuriki column power cannot control tailed beasts at all. If it really goes to the battlefield, then the most likely situation is that the Jinchuriki column force will not distinguish between the enemy, and they will directly kill. It is for this reason that Keisuke can only temporarily place the human Jinchuriki column force in Sunagakure village, so that he can be familiar with the manipulation of tailed beasts. Chiyo, who returned to the battlefield 3 months ago, was cut off by Dong Shenyao before, which was very fatal for a puppet master. In order to prevent her strength from decreasing, Chiyo had to make a puppet arm. Chiyo's ability to make puppets may not be as good as Sasori's in the peak period, but after all, she is a puppet master of a generation. Making a puppet arm is still very easy, and using it does not affect her strength. But even so, Keisuke and Chiyo were still pressed and beaten by Dong Shenyao when they joined forces. Even at the end of every battle between the two sides, Keisuke would flee in embarrassment, otherwise they would die on the battlefield. With the continuous battle with the strong, Dong Shenyao made rapid progress. He used Keisuke and Chiyo as whetstones. Although the two of them were not as strong as Dong Shenyao, they were perfect for experimenting with various skills. Through the battle with the two of them, Dong Shenyao has become more comfortable in the application of various skills, especially the country of Huang Izumi, which has been completely developed, and now the country of Huang Izumi can completely block Chiyo. And even the threat of sealing to undead warriors has been reduced a lot, because now undead warriors have simple wisdom, and it can even be said that they are already a kind of creature. The reason why this happens is mainly because Dong Shenyao has given them the power of life, and he uses the soul to control this skill. A small amount of soul power is integrated into the bodies of these undead warriors. With these two things, the undead warrior became a creature-like existence. It can be said that this has already formed the prototype of a new race, and Dong Shenyao has an ambition, that is, after he truly becomes a god, these undead warriors will become his most loyal followers and subordinates. In addition to Huang Izumi, Dong Shenyao's Yi Jinjing practice finally broke through the bottleneck after a battle and reached the 9th form. With the breakthrough of Yijinjing, Dong Shenyao 323 feet S strength has increased again, but he has not fully displayed the increased strength. But even so, the strength revealed by Dong Shenyao at this time has surpassed cage. The level is complete, or it is already half a step beyond the cage level. As for Dong Shenyao's real strength, it is a proper super cage level. If his strength fully explodes, Dong Shenyao has the confidence to kill Kage and Chio. However, Ta Shenyao is not going to do that, because he wants to temporarily leave Sunagakure village, and continue to weaken Konoha's strength through Sunagakure village, and even Ta Shenyao is ready to lead the ninja war. He has to pass again and again. The ninja world war will weaken the overall strength of the ninja world and prepare for the unification of the ninja world in the future. In addition to the improvement of Dong Shenyao's strength, at this time, the entire ninja world is fighting everywhere. Many small countries are fighting each other, and if they want to annex each other and strengthen themselves, it is best to become the 6th largest country in the ninja world. The flames of war shrouded the entire ninja world, and even Chen Jiguo could not stay out of it, and even for revenge, Chen Jiguo took the initiative to launch an attack on Chuan Jiguo. Since the last Ninja World War, Tang Ninja Village has moved out of the country of Sichuan due to serious damage to its strength. Without the ninja village, the strength of the country of Sichuan has been greatly reduced, which allowed Asuka to see an opportunity. Chapter 454 Mighty Country. If it hadn't been for Dong Shenyao to intervene in the end, I'm afraid that the kingdom of Chen would be annexed by the kingdom of Chuan. However, even if Chen Jiguo survives and even defeats Chuan Jiguo, the loss of Chen Jiguo is not small. Even Asuka's father, the death of Chen Jiguo's previous generation, is also related to Chuan Jiguo. Newspaper. Before, thanks to the help of Dong Shenyao, Chen Jiguo cultivated some ninjas. Although a ninja village has not yet been established, the strength of Chen Jiguo's ninjas has surpassed some small ninja villages. These ninjas in the kingdom of Chen were originally orphans. Their parents and relatives were killed by the people of the kingdom of Chuan. Hatred was the driving force for their cultivation, so they cultivated very hard one by one. And the practice of ninja is like this. As long as the talent is not bad, the harder you work, the faster the progress will be, and of course the greater the damage to the body. After more than 10 years of practice, some powerful ninjas have emerged in the country of Chen, and the most powerful even has the strength of the elite Jonin. With the existence of these ninjas, Asuka also has the confidence. Seeing that the ninja world is in chaos, the country of fire has no time to control them. Asuka immediately launched an attack on the country of Sichuan. After the development of Asuka over the years, the kingdom of Chen has made great progress. Not only has the economy grown rapidly, but the strength of the army has surpassed that of the kingdom of Chuan. With the help of ninjas. As soon as the war began, the kingdom of Chuan was falling into the disadvantage. In less than half a month, nearly 1/3 of the land in the country of Sichuan has fallen. In this way, it is still because there are some ninja powers in the hands of the daimyo of the country of the river. Otherwise, the country of the river may have been destroyed. Although Chuanjiguo has hired a lot of bounty hunters and wandering ninjas to help, but facing the wolf-like ninjas of Chenjiguo, plus the 3 earth avatars of Dongshenyao, these ninjas of Chuanjiguo, those who were beaten, were losing ground. After all, those bounty hunters and wandering ninjas are all for money. They can't really work for the country of Sichuan. Once they are in danger, they will run faster than anyone else. Dongshenyao's 3 earth avatars are particularly active in attacking the kingdom of Chuan. After all, Dongshenyao has tasks and rewards are very generous. Now that he has the opportunity to complete it, of course he will not miss it. As for the powerful strength displayed by the kingdom of Chen, it quickly attracted the attention of the surrounding countries. Those small countries prayed in their hearts that the kingdom of Chen would not attack them, and the kingdom of fire and the kingdom of wind were somewhat afraid of Chenji. The strength of the country, but now they are all at war, and they have no energy to manage the country of Chen Q and LT, P Shui. It is precisely because of this that Asuka will show her strength without any scruples. Once the country of Chuan is annexed, even if the Ninja World War ends, the country of fire and the country of wind will not be able to fight against each other. The kingdom of Chen started. Predict. Dong Shenyao was in the country of rain, and the country of rain and the country of Sichuan bordered. He naturally heard the news that the country of Chen was attacking the country of Sichuan, and Dong Shenyao liked this kind of thing, and he even secretly heard about it. An order was given to the Dark Blade, let them secretly help the country of Chen. It seems that after the end of the Ninja World War, the two tasks related to the kingdom of Chen can be completed. Dong Shenyao thought to himself. Although the battle between the kingdom of Chen and the kingdom of Chuan has attracted the attention of some people, it is not the protagonist. Now the protagonists of the ninja world are Sunagakure village, Iwagakure village and Konoha village. The battle of the three major ninja villages has attracted the attention of countless people. Even the village of Kumogakure was about to move. On the contrary, the country of water is still mysterious, there is no movement at all, and they don't know what they are going to do. Ninja villages were in full swing in the country of rain. Uehara Kai and others were also constantly attacking Sunagakure village. Kage had to send Chio's younger brother, Cage level master Ebizo, to the front line to fend off Kei Uehara and Hitaki Sakumo. As the war progressed, Hitaki Sakumo's reputation became louder and louder. There was even a time when Hitaki Sakumo fought Ebizo alone, and the fight was indistinguishable. This battle established Hitaki Sakumo's reputation as a cage-level master in one fell swoop. The ensuing war, Hitaki Sakumo's strength increased by leaps and bounds, and the battle with Ebizo from the beginning was a draw, and later directly suppressed Ebizo at the disadvantage. Sunagakure died in the hands of Hitaki Sakumo during the war, and even Kei Uehara is not as good as Hitaki Sakumo in this regard. For a while, Hitaki Sakumo became the second most feared person in Sunagakure village. As for the first, it was Ta Shenyao who suppressed Kage and Chio. On this day, Dong Shenyao left the camp with people as usual. During this time, Dong Shenyao didn't stay in the camp all the time. When he was free, he would go out with some ninjas to find Sunagakure and Iwagakure who went out to loot supplies in the land of rain. Of course, Kage does the same, and every now and then some Konoha ninjas die at Kage's hands. My lord, I found the trace of Sunagakure ahead. Suddenly a scout ninja came back to report the situation. Take us there. Dong Shenyao gave the order directly. Soon the group came to a village outside. My lord is here. Not long ago, I saw a team of Sunagakure enter this village. The scout ninja pointed to the village and said. Looking at the village, Dong Shenyao opened Byakugan directly. Through Byakugan, Dong Shenyao quickly found Sunagakure in the village. After confirming that the news was correct, Dong Shenyao rushed towards the village first, while others followed closely. Soon Dong Shenyao and the others came to a building. This small building was a store in the village. There were a lot of supplies in it, so they were targeted by Sunagakure. Without waiting for Dong Shenyao to speak, many ninjas rushed up impatiently, apparently wanting to compete for credit. Dong Shenyao doesn't care about this. At this stage, he doesn't need any credit. After all, he is already a great elder, and the next step is Hokage, but before Sarutobi Hiruzen abdicates, he cannot become Hokage. Yes, since Dong Shenyao naturally does not need credit. Suddenly Dong Shenyao's eyes narrowed, because he found that there were some detonating talismans hidden in the building, and those Sunagakure did not run away after noticing the Konoha ninja, but led the Konoha ninja to the place with the detonating talisman. Recognition failed. Please reprocess the image, or change to a better image resource. Chapter 455 Nawaki, Death. The place where the detonation talisman led, Dong Shenyao didn't know where it was. This was Sunagakure's conspiracy at all. Especially when Ta Shenyao saw a familiar figure among the Konoha ninjas, his heart skipped a beat. Boom. Suddenly, a deafening explosion sounded, and the sound spread throughout the entire village. All the villagers heard it, but no one dared to come out to check. Recently, they have already heard about the robbery of Danin village. In order to save their lives, many people have gone into hiding, and many villages have even been empty. Although there are still some people in this village, these people live carefully every day. Don't say it's just an explosion, even if the whole village is shaken by an earthquake, they won't leave the room one step. At the moment of the explosion, Dong Shenyao's figure had disappeared in place. At this time, the building was full of fire, and the original complete building was turned into ruins. Boom! Boom! Then there were several more explosions. At the same time, quite a few Konoha ninjas who had not been in just now were dumbfounded. How could this be? Hurry up and save people. Finally, a ninja reacted, shouted, and hurriedly ran towards the building. At this time, the entire building had turned into a sea of fire, and the smoke was so thick that it was impossible to see what was inside, and the ground was full of rubble. At the same time, deep in the building, Dong Shenyao was looking at a young man who had passed out in a coma in front of him. Fortunately, I caught up, or I'm afraid Tsunade will blame him to death. Dong Shenyao let out a long sigh. This boy is none other than Tsunade's younger brother Naoki. Naoki is actually less than 12 years old now. Although his strength is good, he has reached a special Jonin level, but it is not his turn to go to the battlefield. However, for some unknown reason, he sneaked into the reinforcements, and then came to the battlefield. After being discovered by Dong Shenyao, he originally planned to send Naoki back to the village, but Naoki kept begging him, wanting to stay. Thinking for a while, Dong Shenyao thought that in the original book Naoki was in danger when he was about 12 years old, and he died in the end. It would be a repeat of the tragedy, so in the end Dong Shenyao decided to keep Naoki by his side, so that he had him in, at least at a critical moment to keep Naoki one. Didn't know what mission Naoki performed in the original book, but he knew that Naoki was caught in an ambush by the enemy and was killed in the end, but he didn't expect the inertia of the plot to be so great, even if he didn't follow Orochimaru, and still encountered an ambush. At this time, Dong Shenyao was fortunate that he had discovered the ambush in advance, and he possessed the technique of Hiraishin, so that he could save Naoki. As early as when Naoki first came to the camp, Dong Shenyao had secretly left the Hiraishin spell on him, so he was able to come to Naoki so quickly. After Dong Shenyao arrived, he had used the earth element condensation shield to block the impact of the explosion. Originally, Naoki would not be in a coma, but Dong Shenyao suddenly thought of something, so he finally knocked Naoki unconscious. Naoki, I'm doing this for your own good, I hope you can understand. After muttering to himself, Dong Shenyao Kamui launched, and the space around Naoki suddenly distorted, and finally formed a Uzumaki. Not long after, Naoki had disappeared. Naoki has been included in the Kamui space by Ta Shenyao at this time. Then Dong Shenyao took advantage of the time when the others hadn't arrived yet, and separated an Earth avatar, and then the Earth avatar changed for a while, and suddenly changed into Naoki's appearance. But at this time, Naoki, who was transformed into a clone of the Earth, was very miserable. The whole body was tattered, covered in blood, his clothes were broken, and his internal organs had been blown up. Gradually, the vitality of the Earth clone was completely cut off, but due to the characteristics of the Earth clone, he did not disappear. Very good, then even Tsunade won't be able to detect the problem. Thinking of this, a smile appeared on the corner of Dong Shenyao's mouth. It didn't take long for the people who were waiting outside to run in. After seeing Dong Shenyao, these people hurriedly gathered. Sir, how is the situation here? A ninja said worriedly. It's very bad, everyone, prepare to rescue. Said, Dong Shenyao waved his hand. Broken. Dong Shenyao spit out a word, and the building that was still burning was completely torn apart, but all the broken stones were scattered outside, and then the ground rose, directly breaking through the obstruction of the flame. Without the flames and smoke, they soon found the body of the Konoha ninja in the rubble. After a few minutes, everyone came to the outside of the building. At this time, there were a lot of corpses on the ground. After the explosion just now, all the Konoha ninjas survived. Of course, this is what other people think. They don't know that Naoki is not dead. Let's go back. After sealing the body, Dong Shenyao waved his hand with a heavy expression and strode out of the village. Soon the group returned to the camp. At this time, everyone's face was sad, and this expression suddenly attracted everyone's attention. What's going on? The people who stayed at the camp became curious one by one. Come on, get Tsunade as quickly as possible, and, save for Naoki's body, keep everyone else's bodies properly. After returning to the tent, Dong Shenyao ordered directly. Soon Naoki's body was left in the tent, and the bodies of the others were still sealed in the scrolls, waiting to be sent back to Konoha for burial. Not long after, Tsunade stormed into the tent. What happened to Yao? You are so eager to find me. Dong Shenyao didn't speak, just pointed his finger at the ground. As soon as he lowered his head, Tsunade saw Naoki's body immediately. Although Naoki's body looked miserable, his face was not hurt much, so Tsunade could recognize his identity at a glance. Naoki! Tsunade exclaimed suddenly, and the next moment, her eyes couldn't help Yuhi's eyes, and tears rolled in the circles of her eyes. Brother! Woohoo! A cry of grief, Tsunade crouched down and hugged Naoki's body, crying bitterly. Looking at the sad Tsunade, Dong Shenyao felt a little tangled in his heart. He didn't know whether to tell Tsunade the truth or not. After hesitating for a while, Dong Shenyao decided to wait until everything was over. After all, once Tsunade knew the truth, he would probably show some abnormality unconsciously. Recognition failed. Please reprocess the image, or change to a better image resource. Chapter 456. It's time for acting. But in the end, he held back tea and decided not to tell Tsunade the truth for the time being. However, Dong Shenyao still wanted to comfort Tsunade. Immediately, Dong Shenyao walked behind Tsunade, patted her on the shoulder and said, "Tsunade, condolences." Before Dong Shenyao could finish his words, Tsunade suddenly raised his head and looked directly into Dong Shenyao's eyes. Looking at Tsunade's pupils covered by tears, Dong Shenyao swallowed the words unconsciously. After staring at Dong Shenyao for a moment, Tsunade suddenly raised his fist. Bang! Tsunade unreservedly punched Dong Shenyao directly in the chest. Although Dong Shenyao had the ability to dodge, he did not, but he took the punch of Tsunade. Even if Dong Shenyao's comprehensive strength was comparable to a super cage level, he could block Tsunade's all-out chakra-enhanced strength. Can't stop, the body flew out directly. PFF'd. Dong Shenyao slammed into the tent and flew out, and finally flew out dozens of meters before falling to the ground. Bang! The smoke and dust were everywhere, and this sudden scene made many ninjas in the camp stunned. What's the matter? Because Dong Shenyao flew out too fast just now, many ninjas just saw a black shadow, and they didn't know what was flying out. Cough, cough, cough. After coughing a few times, Dong Shenyao slowly stood up from the ground. Looking at the big hole on the ground that he smashed out, Dong Shenyao couldn't help but smile bitterly, and touched his extremely painful chest. He couldn't blame Tsunade well. Tattoo. Footsteps sounded, and Tsunade stepped out of the tent where Dong Shenyao had smashed it. At this time, the smoke had dissipated, and many people discovered that it was Dong Shenyao who flew out. What the hell happened? How did the commander fly out? Could it be that Tsunade fought? Aren't the two adults a couple? What happened today? Many people were a little confused. Could it be that Master Dong Shenyao found another woman and was known to Master Tsunade, so he quarreled with Master Dong Shenyao? Someone instantly made up the plot of a love triangle. Tsunade, I'm sorry, Dong Shenyao said bitterly. At this moment, he somewhat admired his acting skills, which are absolutely Oscar-winning acting skills. Is sorry useful? Tsunade growled angrily. Dong Shenyao, how did you assure me back then that Naoki would be fine, but now? Naoki. Hearing Tsunade's roar, the onlookers came to understand that this matter was probably related to Naoki. As the grandson of the original Hokage, Naoki is still well known in Konoha. Listening to Master Tsunade, could it be that something happened to Naoki? Many people secretly guessed in their hearts. Everything about Tsunade is my fault. I didn't protect Naoki well, I made a blunder. Speaking of this, Tashinya lowered his head in shame. Does an apology work? Naoki is dead. No matter how you apologize, will Naoki come back to life? Naoki is dead. In an instant, the surrounding ninjas were stunned, and Tsunade's words made them understand what happened. At the same time, Orochimaru and Jiraiya also returned to the camp, and upon their return, someone immediately reported the situation to them. Sir is not good, Tsunade-sama and Tashinya-sama are fighting. What? The two of Orochimaru were shocked when they heard the words, and then they didn't bother to ask about the specific situation, and the two hurried over. You bastard, Tsunade snarled, then stepped forward and punched again. This time Dong Shenyao still didn't dodge, and was punched directly in the abdomen by Tsunade. Bang! Punch. Tsunade also showed no mercy, and Dong Shenyao's body immediately rose into the air, flying straight for more than 20 meters before landing. Bang! A big hole was smashed into the ground again. What happened to Tsunade? At the moment when Tashinya landed, the two of Orochimaru just came over. Tsunade, why are you hitting the commander? Orochimaru asked, frowning. Yeah, what happened? Although Jiraiya very much hopes that Dong Shenyao can break up with Tsunade, so that he has a chance, but this does not mean that Jiraiya will see Tsunade and Dong Shenyao conflict. Now is the time of war. Tsunade and Tashinya are both important figures in the camp. If the two of them are in conflict, it will not be a good thing for the camp. Facing the two Orochimaru, Tsunade did not lose his temper with them, but said with a cold face, Naoki is dead. What? The two of Orochimaru were shocked when they heard the words. Compared with ordinary ninjas, they understood the importance of Naoki better. They can say without hesitation that as long as Naoki does not fall and cultivates well, the position of the future 4 generations of Hokage is very likely to be his. But now, Naoki died before he was 12 years old, which also means that the Senju Hashirama lineage is completely cut off. Although Tsunade is still alive, she is a woman after all, and she is not a Senju clan after marriage. What happened to Tsunade? How did Naoki die? Orochimaru asked in confusion. Naoki has been on the battlefield in normal times, he always sends many people to protect him. In addition, Tsunagaku's masters were blocked by Tashinya and the others, so Naoki would not be in any danger. I don't know the exact circumstances, but Naoki's body is in the tent. Seeing the truth, Orochimaru frowned. At this time, Dong Shenyao slowly walked over. Tsunade, it's all my fault for not protecting Naoki. My lord, what happened and why did Naoki die? Orochimaru asked. This time Tsunade did not fight Tashinya again, but waited for Tashinya's explanation. That's it. Immediately, Dong Shenyao told the story. I didn't expect it to be Tsunagaku's conspiracy. By the time I discovered it, it was too late. The explosion had already happened. When I found Naoki, he had already died. Dong Shenyao said with a sad face. Damn Tsunagaku. Jiraiya couldn't help cursing. Dong Shenyao, I didn't expect you to lead the team in person, but Naoki still had an accident, how could you let me forgive you? As he spoke, tears fell from the corners of Tsunade's eyes. Okay, it's alright, everyone is gone. Orochimaru suddenly turned around and shouted. Orochimaru is still very prestige in the camp, and I don't know if he has been with snakes for too long, and he has acquired some habits of snakes, so his breath is relatively cold, and he is with other people. When I was there, my face was cold, so everyone was afraid of Orochimaru. At this time, Orochimaru spoke, and these onlookers suddenly. Recognition failed. Please reprocess the image, or change to a better image resource. Chapter 457 Queen Tsunade. If we have something to do, let's go into the tent and talk slowly. Tashinya didn't speak, but looked at Tsunade. Tsunade ignored Tashinya, turned around and walked towards the tent, apparently agreeing with Orochimaru's words. Soon several people entered the tent, and only then did Orochimaru and Jiraiya see Naoki's body. Looking at Naoki's miserable appearance on the ground, the two of Orochimaru were also a little sad. Due to Tsunade, Naoki, Orochimaru and Jiraiya also had a good relationship. Hey, life is too fragile. Orochimaru sighed. Hearing Orochimaru's words, a light flashed in Dongshin's dazzling eyes, but he knew that Orochimaru decided to develop the technique of immortality precisely because he realized that human beings are too easy to die and life is short. Looks like it won't be long before Orochimaru is going the way of the original. Tsunade, the deceased has passed away, condolences. Jiraiya comforted. Tsunade didn't speak, just stared down at Naoki's body with a sad look. My lord, what are you going to do next? Orochimaru asked. Notify the village about Naoki first, but you can't tell Aunt Haruko, and this matter must be revenge. Tsunagakure dares to play a conspiracy, and they must pay for it. Tashinyao said viciously. That's right, I must take revenge. How dare I hurt my cute little brother Naoki? Tsunagakure and I are endless. Jiraiya said angrily. Okay, let's go out, I want to be quiet. Tsunade waved his hand suddenly. Who is Jingjing? Jiraiya asked stupidly. Orochimaru directly covered his face. Although he knew that Jiraiya was stupid, he didn't expect to be so stupid. I saw that Orochimaru didn't speak, and directly pulled Jiraiya out. Hey, Orochimaru, what are you doing? Jiraiya hurriedly struggled. Okay, be honest. With that said, Orochimaru had already pulled Jiraiya out of the tent, and soon only Dongshinyao and Tsunade were left in the tent. Aren't you going? Tsunade asked after glancing at Dongshinyao. That's Tsunade, sorry. Tsunade ignored Dongshinyao. She first walked outside the tent and looked around, seeing that there was no one around, and then walked back. Wiping the tears from the corners of his eyes, Tsunade looked directly at Dongshinyao and said, when are you going to tell me the truth? Huh, Dongshinyao was stunned, he didn't understand what Tsunade meant. Although I don't know why you did this shouldn't be Naoki's body. How did you know? Dongshinyao looked at Tsunade in shock. HMPH, I knew it. Well, you're right, this is indeed not Naoki. Dongshinyao didn't expect that he played so well, but Tsunade still saw the problem. That's not right. Suddenly Dongshinyao was stunned, because if Tsunade had discovered the problem long ago, why would she hit herself? Tsunade, when did you find out? Dongshinyao asked. At this moment, Tsunade said with a smile on the corner of his mouth, I saw it already. Then you still hit me. Dongshinyao felt a little aggrieved. Who told you to lie to me, and although I don't know why you did it, there must be a reason, so I did it to cooperate with you. Suddenly found himself just like a clown in front of Tsunade, the real queen is Tsunade. I underestimated you, I didn't expect you to find out that Naoki's body was fake and still be able to act so well. HMPH, this time you know how good they are. Tsunade was a little proud of Dongshinyao's comment. Then Tsunade, can you tell me how you discovered the problem? I think the performance is perfect. Dongshinyao questioned. It's true that you didn't have any flaws, but Naoki's body has flaws. Dongshinyao shook his head when he heard the words. Impossible, I checked it on purpose. This corpse is no different from the real Naoki, and Orochimaru and the others didn't find any problems just now. Hey, this is a secret that only Naoki and I know. I gave him a necklace on his birthday. It was given to me by my grandfather. It was condensed with Mokudan, wood-style chakra. After Grandpa died, the necklace was unique. I didn't find this necklace on the corpse just now, then I knew that the corpse was probably fake. Hey, I miscalculated. Dongshinyao sighed involuntarily, only then did he remember that Tsunade did give Naoki the necklace in the original book. And the necklace seemed to be cursed, and whoever Tsunade gave it to would be killed. First Tsunade's younger brother Naoki, then her lover in the original book, and both died. The curse was not broken until Tsunade gave Naruto the necklace. However, Dong Shenyao doubted that it was because Naruto had the aura of the protagonist, so he was able to resist the curse. Tell me, yo, why are you doing this? This time it was Tsunade's turn to ask. Tsunade, I did this for Naoki's sake. Naoki has a special status. I don't know how many people are staring at him in the entire ninja world, and not only in other villages, even in our Konoha village, some people regard him as a thorn in the eyes, a thorn in the flesh. I can't wait to get rid of it and then quickly. Quote. Impossible, how could someone in our village want to kill Naoki? Naoki is the grandson of the first Hokage. Tsunade couldn't believe it. It is because of Naoki's identity that some people want to harm him. With Naoki's talent, it is not impossible to become a cage-level master in the future. At that time, the position of the fourth-generation Hokage may be his, so some people may not like him. Seeing that Dong 5.8 Shenyao's analysis was well-founded, Tsunade had to doubt it. No, Yao, didn't you say that this ambush was done by the people of Sunagakur village? What does this have to do with the people of Konoha village? Naturally it has something to do with it, because the ambush in Sunagakur village is likely to kill Naoki. It can be said that this is a trap specially set up to deal with Naoki. What the hell is going on? Yo, don't give up. Tsunade asked anxiously. Okay, I'll tell you everything I know. Speaking of this, Dong Shenyao paused, sorted out his words, and said, the reason why I went to deal with those Sunagakers today is because our investigators discovered those Sunagakers. But you know what? I secretly hypnotized that investigator when I came back. Recognition failed. Please reprocess the image, or change to a better image resource. Chapter 458 Decisive Battle. Our investigator found them, but you know what? I secretly hypnotized the investigator when I came back and got some information. What information? Tsunade asked anxiously. Actually, the news about Sunagakur was deliberately told to me by the investigator. He even contacted Naoki secretly and encouraged Naoki to take the initiative. It can be said that all this is his conspiracy. Why would he do this? Could he be a spy from Sunagakur village? Tsunade questioned. No, he's not a spy from Sunagakur village. He's from Shimura Danzo, or he's affiliated with the Roots. What? Tsunade couldn't help exclaiming when he heard that. Yo, do you mean that this was all arranged by Danzo? Tsunade couldn't believe it. Almost. You should know that Danzo has been peeping at Hokage's position, but unfortunately Nadaime II Sama passed the Hokage position to Sarutobi Hiruzen. Sarutobi Hiruzen is powerful, but his prestige is also very high. Danzo can't compete with him at all. So Danzo can only wait for Sarutobi Hiruzen to abdicate before becoming Hokage. The existence of Naoki is a huge obstacle to him. Once Naoki grows up, the position of the fourth generation of Hokage is none other than Naoki, so Danzo will want to get rid of Naoki. Now it seems that Danzo has secretly contacted Sunagakur. How could he do this? He is the second grandpa's disciple. Tsunade shouted angrily. Hey, Danzo has been enchanted, and now he only has the goal of becoming Hokage in his heart, and everyone who stops him is his enemy. Now even if Nadaime II Sama is resurrected, if Danzo is prevented from becoming Hokage, I am afraid that Danzo will kill Nadaime II Sama. Quote. Danzo dared to do this. Yo, we immediately told the news to Mr. Sarutobi. It's useless. Dong Shenyao shook his head. Tsunade, do you think it's useful to tell Sarutobi about this? Sarutobi and Danzo are comrades in arms and brothers, and we have no evidence for this. How come there is no evidence? Tsunade asked in confusion. Before that investigator was sealed, and he couldn't say a word about the plan, but I had no choice but to read his memory directly and violently. Although I got his memory, that person's head was already abolished. Dong Shenyao explained. The most important thing is that now is the time of war. Danzo is a cage-level master and is an indispensable fighting force in our village. Do you think Sarutobi Hiruzen will kill Danzo for a dead man? So Tsunade, give it up, useless. Did you just watch Danzo get away with this? Tsunade said in dissatisfaction. Of course not, but this requires us to plan well, and Tsunade, haven't you noticed, the influence of your Senju clan in the village is gradually waning, and now the only real Senju clan in the village are you and Naoki. Quote. Hearing Tashinyao words, Tsunade couldn't help feeling chills. With the guidance of Tashinyao, Tsunade was very suspicious that it was all a conspiracy. Even now she is wondering if her father's death was planned by someone. But unfortunately, Tsunade's father has been dead for many years, and even if there is a conspiracy, it is impossible to pursue the truth. Tsunade, now you should understand what I'm doing. Only when people think that Naoki is dead and will not bring them any more threats, can Naoki grow up safely. Where is Naoki now? Tsunade demanded. I'll let you meet him. Said, the space in Dong Shenyao's right eye was distorted, and then Naoki slowly flew out of it. When Naoki landed, he was still in a coma, and Tsunade jumped up immediately. Checking and confirming that Naoki was in a coma and nothing else, Tsunade breathed a long sigh of relief, but then she became curious again. Yo, where did you just get Naoki? This is one of my spatial abilities. Dong Shenyao said simply. Oh, Tsunade knew that a ninja's secret skills were a ninja's trump card, and he would not let other people know about it easily. Although he had a close relationship with Dong Shenyao, Tsunade did not pursue it. Yeah, what are your plans for next? I am going to let Naoki stay in the Dark Blade temporarily, so that he can hide his identity, and he can continue to improve his strength, and let him reveal his identity after he has fully grown in the future, so even if Danzo is angry, it will be useless. Quote. Thank you. Tsunade, why are you being polite to me? Said, Dong Shenyao directly embraced Tsunade's waist. Tsunade didn't struggle either, but instead leaned his body against Tashinyao's arms. After the two kept it warm for a while, Dong Shenyao put Naoki in the Kamui space again. After all, it is not safe here. Maybe someone will come in at any time, and it will be bad if they are found. Tsunade, I will hide it from your mother for the time being, and tell her the truth after the turmoil has subsided. Also, I still need you to continue acting, but don't reveal the truth. Well, I'll listen to you. Appeasing Tsunade, Dong Shenyao directly separated a clone of Daddy 843 and asked him to rush back to Konoha village to send Naoki back. The Earth Avatar has almost all the skills of Dong Shenyao, and Kamui is no exception. In fact, this can also be used as a cheat. As long as there is an Earth Avatar, he can pass through the Kamui space at any time. Konoha village from the land of rain. During this time, Naoki can only be wronged and let him continue to pass out. Soon the news of Naoki's death was sent back to Konoha village. Since this matter was of great importance, Sarutobi Hiruzen temporarily blocked the news and sent a letter to express condolences. And Tsunade still performed very well, without showing any flaws, which made Dong Shenyao have to praise it. This is definitely the acting skills of the actress. At this time, the Earth Avatar has returned to Konoha, and released Naoki in the Kamui space. The next thing Dong Shenyao is handed over to the Earth Avatar, and he himself began to plan with Sunagakur village. Fighting. Since Sunagakur dared to set a trap on Naoki, and apparently succeeded in killing Naoki, then Konoha must show something, otherwise, wouldn't it mean that they Konoha were afraid of Sunagakur? On the fourth day of Naoki's death, Tashinyao didn't make a sneak attack, but launched an all-out attack on Sunagakur. Recognition failed. Please reprocess the image, or change to a better image resource. Chapter 459. The Sunagakur Route Part 1. Land, and headed straight to the Sunagakur village camp. The journey of more than 10 miles was fleeting, and Dong Shenyao brought his people to a stop 100 meters away from the Sunagakur village camp. Since Dong Shenyao was not a sneak attack this time, the people of Sunagakur village discovered them early. When Dong Shenyao and the others approached the Sunagakur camp, the people of Sunagakur village were already ready. Dong Shenyao, stay safe. Cage walked out of the crowd and greeted Dong Shenyao with a smile on his face. Cage is in a good mood now, because he designed to kill Senju Hashirama's grandson, the future 4 generations of Hokage. Every time I think about it, Cage is like drinking cold water in dog days. That's cool, because of losing to Eastern gods one after another these few months. Yaoer's distressed mood has also eased a lot. Cage, you actually dare to plot against Senju Nawaki. You know, you are killing yourself. If you don't avenge me, Dong Shenyao, I am ashamed of the 2nd generation Hokage. I will completely defeat you Sunagakure today, and I will definitely bring people to peace in the future. You Sunagakure village. Quote. Ha ha ha, who wouldn't speak big words? I admit that your Konoha village is powerful, and your Dong Shenyao is stronger than me, but we've been fighting for a few months. You can't beat us. Cage sneered. Road. HMPH, you'll know after a while. Doden Earth-style troops are ready. Following Dong Shenyao's order, hundreds of ninjas stepped forward. Seeing that Konoha was about to shoot, Cage also retreated into the crowd, giving orders at the same time. Go. Soon as Dong Shenyao's voice fell, hundreds of Konoha ninjas hand-sealed at the same time. Doden Earth-style rip the earth. Doden Earth-style earth movement. At this time, the hundreds of Konoha ninjas used almost these 2 kinds of ninjutsu. Among them, the ground movement level was lower, and it was used by those ninjas below the level of Jonin. The function of this ninjutsu was to shake the ground like an earthquake. Can destroy the opponent's defense. Of course, if it is only used by a single person, the power is not great, let alone destroying the city wall. Even an ordinary earth wall may not be completely destroyed. However, when hundreds of people use it at the same time, the quantitative change causes qualitative change, and the power is not small. I saw the earth shaking, and the city walls built by Sunagakure outside the camp began to shake. Cracking the earth and turning the palm of the hand has a higher level, mainly performed by Jonin and some elite Jonin. After using it, the palm of the hand slaps the ground, which can crack the earth. Although there are not many people using this ninjutsu, but because of its own good attack power, the damage to the Sunagakure camp is stronger. I saw the cracks spread to the foot of the city wall, and with the shaking of the earth, the city wall of the Sunagakure camp became precarious. Although the ground here has been reinforced by Sunagakure, it cannot withstand the destruction of so many ninjas at the same time. Now Cage can only order his subordinates to continuously strengthen the city walls and at the same time stabilize the descent. Seeing that the city walls of Sunagakure could no longer hold on, Dong Shenyao also took action. Landslide. I saw Dong Shenyao stomping his feet, and suddenly the earth shook even more violently. Predict. Dong Shenyao's shot was like the last straw that broke the camel's back. Sunagakure couldn't hold on any longer, the ground cracked and the city wall shattered. Boom. With a loud bang, a large section of the city wall collapsed, and thick smoke billowed into the sky, forming a small mushroom cloud. Team Kaden Fire Style, Unit Futon Wind Style, and Unit Raiden Thunder Style. Dong Shenyao seized the opportunity and ordered directly. Immediately, the Doden Earth Style troops retreated, and then thousands of people came out, one by one hand seal with both hands. Kaden Fire Style Great Fireball Jutsu. Kaden Fire Style Dragon Fire Bullet. Futon Wind Style Vacuum Spear. Raiden Thunder Style False Darkness. Kinds of ninjutsu flew out and went straight to the Sunagakure village camp. At this time, the city wall was broken, causing Sunagakure to be in a hurry. Although Cage tried his best to stabilize the lineup and wanted to organize manpower to resist the attack, it was too late. A lot of ninjutsu poured down, and suddenly many Sunagakure fell. Boom. 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 Explosions sounded one after another, and the smoke filled the air, making it difficult to see Sunagakure's situation, but it was not difficult for Dong Shenyao. Seeing that Sunagakure's team was in chaos, and the smoke also blocked Sunagakure's sight, Dong Shenyao waved his hand immediately. Rush. Saying that, Dong Xianyao took the lead and rushed towards Sunagakur's camp. Tsunade and other 4 quasi-kage followed closely, followed by an elite Jonin and others, and thousands of ninjas rushed towards the Sunagakur camp in a mighty manner. Smoke cleared, Xianyao had already met a Sunagakur. Because there was a lot of smoke, some Sunagakur were covered in smoke, and because the smoke blocked the line of sight, this Sunagakur didn't see Dong Xianyao at all. PFF'd. Blood splattered, and before Sunagakur understood, his throat had been cut by the shadow-chopping knife, and then the corpse fell to the ground with a thud. A Sunagakur, Dong Xianyao did not stop and continued to charge forward. After killing 3 people in a row, Dong Xianyao had already rushed out of the smoke range, and his Byakugan had already locked on Kage, so just after leaving the smoke range, he rushed over with a blink technique. Kage didn't respond slowly, and directly used Kunwu to block Xianyao's attack. When the symphony of gold and iron sounded, sparks scattered, the Horaitian technique was activated, and the next moment Dong Xianyao disappeared directly in front of Kage. When Dong Xianyao's shadow-cutting knife stood on Feng Yu's back, but to his surprise, this knife did not hurt Kage. After cutting through Kage's clothes, it only made a sound of gold and iron. This is. Looking at the metallic luster from the damaged clothes, Dong Xianyao's eyes flashed with surprise. Hee, Dong Xianyao's same moves are useless for me. Kage turned around and said proudly. In order to resist Dong Xianyao's sneak attack, Kage directly used Jiden, magnet style, to absorb a layer of iron sand on his body. This layer of iron sand is like armor to resist attacks for Kage, and this is not ordinary iron sand. It is carefully refined by Kage. Yes, the defense is very strong. Even if Dong Xianyao used the knife gas just now, it did not destroy the iron sand. It's just that Kage is also a little depressed, because Dong Xianyao's weapon is clearly made of metal, but at this time his magnetic force is ineffective against the shadow-chopping blade. Kage didn't know that the reason for this was entirely due to the internal force. In order to resist the magnetic force, Dong Xianyao used the internal force to wrap the shadow-chopping blade, so that the magnetic force could not affect the shadow-chopping blade. It's some progress, but that's not enough. After speaking, Dong Xianyao attacked again. Dang dang dang. In the blink of an eye, the two fought again for several rounds. Dong Xianyao is haunted. In the face of such an attack, Kage had to concentrate on preventing the attack, but after having the sand and iron armor, Kage was much more relaxed, and it was difficult for him to fight Dong Xianyao for a while. Recognition failed. Please reprocess the image, or change to a better image resource. Chapter 460 Sunagakur Defeat Part 2. Yi Ninja finally rushed out of the range shrouded in O's smoke, and began to face off with Sunagakur. Seeing that the melee started, Dong Xianyao and Kage intentionally moved towards the outside of the battlefield. Just when Dong Xianyao used the shadow-chopping blade to attack Kage's back again, his face suddenly changed. The next moment Dong Xianyao had disappeared in place, and then a puppet flew by. Seeing Dong Xianyao dodging, Chiyo couldn't help but look disappointed. She didn't expect that the sneak attack she had carefully prepared was still discovered. Now that he was discovered, Chiyo simply stopped hiding and joined the battle directly. With 1 against 2, but he did not lose the slightest. Instead, he relied on the elusive Horaitian technique to press Kage and fight the two. Gradually, the three had left the camp. The King of the Earth. Seeing that there was no one else around, Dong Xianyao didn't hold back anymore. The earth cracked, and countless stones gathered together to form a huge rock giant, followed by golden light shining, and a layer of golden armor attached to the stone giant. However, this time Dong Xianyao did not enter the body of the Earth King, but stood on his shoulders. The Art of the Blue Dragon. After the appearance of the King of the Earth, Dong Xianyao did not end there. Countless rocks rose up, and a giant rock dragon with a length of more than 100 meters condensed in the sky. Jiden, magnet style, sand iron samurai. Kage was not to be outdone, and a giant of sand and iron with a height of nearly 80 meters appeared. After the two giants appeared, they fought directly in one place under the control of Dong Shenyao. Boom, boom, boom. The explosions sounded one after another, like thunder, and the ground where the two giants passed shattered, and large pits appeared on the ground. The country of Huang Izumi. Ta Shenyao used a skill again. I saw the earth turned into a quagmire, and stone giants crawled out one by one. No need for Dong Shenyao to explain. After these undead warriors appeared, they went straight to Chio and surrounded them. Facing the stone giant rushing towards him, Chio manipulated the puppet with a solemn expression, preparing to resist the stone giant's attack. Is not the first time the two sides have fought each other. Chio understands the horror of the stone giant very well. Although these stone giants are only about the strength of Jonin, they are immortal, and they are not afraid of death, and there are a lot of them. Chio has no good way to solve them. Every time Chio faced Dong Shenyao, he felt a deep sense of powerlessness and doubted his own strength. Because Chio found that he couldn't even deal with the stone giants condensed by Dong Shenyao. The stone giant entangled Chio. All of Dong Shenyao's energy was put on Kage. At this time, Dong Shenyao was standing on top of Kinglong's head, and he had a feeling of flying a dragon. Under the control of Dong Shenyao, Kinglong rushed straight to Kage. Jidon magnet style, sand iron sky wing. Kage flew quickly. Boom. Tail swept past, and since Kage had already left, the huge tail slammed directly on the ground, and the ground suddenly cracked. Jidon magnet style, sand and iron strike. Kage followed suit, manipulating a large amount of iron sand to condense together, but this time he did not condense into a round Jinchuriki column shape, and made it into the appearance of a dragon, but the volume is not as big as the blue dragon made by Dong Shenyao, only more than 30 meters in size. Boom. The stone dragon and the sand iron giant dragon slammed together. Although Dong Shenyao's blue dragon is condensed with rocks, its firmness is no worse than that of the sand iron giant dragon, and it is even stronger. Therefore, after the collision between the two, the sand iron the dragon was directly repulsed. The battle continues. Kage and Chio are doing their best, but Ta Shenyao seems to be at ease. As time passed, the battle between the two sides became more and more intense. After more than 10 minutes, the King of the Earth smashed the Sand and Iron warriors, and then the King of the Earth went to deal with Chio, which suddenly made Chio's situation precarious. At this time, Kage has already devoted himself to the battle. The former Iron Sand warrior made him consume a lot of chakra. Now the remaining chakra is used to maintain the Iron Sand dragon, and there is no extra chakra to use. Other ninjutsu too. On the other hand, Dong Shenyao, the number of chakras has exceeded the scope of Kage level, and he has internal strength, so although he has used 3 powerful skills, he still has spare power. Kaden, Fire Style, Majestic Destroyer Flame, Great Fire Annihilation. Woo. Standing on the top of Kinglong's head, Dong Shenyao hand sealed with both hands. The next moment, terrifying flames spewed out, and the temperature around him instantly increased by more than 20 degrees. Not good. Facing this overwhelming fire, Kage knew that he could not escape at all and could only choose to defend. Immediately, Kage controlled the Sand Iron Dragon and turned it into a huge shield to block in front of him. Boom. The flames bombarded the shield, and under the high temperature, the iron sand was baked and turned into yuhi color, and it didn't take long for the iron sand to melt. The flames lasted for a few seconds. When the flames disappeared, the shield had already been burnt and turned into molten iron and scattered on the ground. At this time, Kage was not in a good state. Then, he blocked the flames with his wings behind him, but his body was not in good shape. Also subjected to high temperature baking. Dong Shenyao did not give Kage time to breathe. The fire had just ended, and he had already flown over with the blue dragon. Bang! Kinglong's huge body hit Kage directly, and Kage suddenly fell like a meteor. Boom! And Kage smashed directly to the ground, and suddenly the smoke rose. Whoosh! The Horaitian technique was activated, and Ta Shenyao came to Kage's side in an instant. Huh. The knife light flashed, and then a large cloud of blood spilled on the ground, and I saw Cage's arm actually fell to the ground. Ah! Of pain sounded, and Cage felt sad in his heart. He didn't expect such a result. Cage. Realizing Cage was injured, Chio cried out in concern. Chio, go! After shouting, Cage didn't dare to stop at all, and ran directly towards the battlefield. Where to go? Dong Shenyao followed closely, constantly attacking Cage, and Cage deserves to be the pinnacle of Cage level. If he hadn't been injured just now, he wouldn't have been cut off by Dong Shenyao. An arm. The most important thing is that Cage had to remove the sand and iron armor from his body due to the fire just now. After all, the high temperature made the temperature of the sand iron also rise, and if it was close to the body, it would directly burn the Cage. Seeing that Cage was no match, Chio also started to run away. She no longer had the courage to face Dong Shenyao alone. Soon the three of them returned to the battlefield again. At this time, the two sides were at a stalemate, and neither could defeat the other. However, obviously, with the return of the three of Dong Shenyao, the situation on the battlefield was about to reverse. Not good. Lord Cage is being hunted down, stop him. Soon, Sunagakur found out that Cage was in a bad situation, and someone rushed to the scene. Recognition failed. Please reprocess the image, or change to a better image resource.